Annette Kane, did you have a question?
Hello.
Hello, Annette, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Did you have a question?
Oh.
You had your hand raised.
Did I have a question?
Yeah, you have your hand raised.
Well, I don't know, understand what's going on. They keep raising my hand and I'm not really touching anything. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, we'll advance you when we call your case.
Okay, thank you.
And the person calling in from the number whose last four numbers is 1900. Can you identify yourself, please?
Yes. Yes, hi, my name is Jacqueline Rodriguez, and I'm calling on behalf of Union Fade.
What's the case number?
Give me a second. That is 490-21S.
Okay, when we call your case, we'll advance you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
If you're raising your hand just to let us know that you're here, you can lower your hand. We can see everybody signed in. So Reverend Billy, did you have a question or are you just letting us know that you're here? Will the person calling in with the last four numbers 2718, can you identify yourself? You have to unmute your phone.
Yep, hi there. Sorry, I'm not too great at the Zoom thing. I'm Jacqueline Wagner. My number is 455-21-F. I had some trouble logging in. So my apologies for not putting the number and name on there. I couldn't figure out how to do it.
No, that's fine. I had you earlier. Did you sign in from a different device?
I did because I'm technology challenged. So I decided to dial in with my phone instead of using the audio on my iPad because it was a little bit easier.
Okay, we got you. When we call your case, we'll advance. Thank you.
Sure.
Person who signed in as attorney, can you please identify your name? You have to unmute yourself.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. What's your name?
Hi, this is Paul Kolpak. I'm just signing in, waiting for my case to be called.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'll rename you Attorney Kolpak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can the person who signed in as BK, can you identify yourself, please, and let us know what case you're here for?
Drugs coming across the river. This is one of the biggest hotspots.
BK?
Yeah, this is Bill Kokelius, Victor.
Okay, gotcha.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. We'll rename you. Thank you.
Okay.
Wilma Rice and all other people, you can raise your hand when your case is called. Until that time, you will stay as attendee. But when your case is being discussed, you can raise your hand so we can promote you to panelist. At that time, you will be able to unmute yourself and also turn on your video.
All right, everybody, let's get going. Good morning and welcome to the November 19th, 2021 virtual meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Timmy Knutson. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm the chairman of the ZBA. We're in the last two ZBA meetings of what has been an incredibly quick year. Ahead of Thanksgiving next week, one thing I'm thankful for is the hard work that ZBA staff and ZBA board members put into every single meeting. There are a ton of moving parts ahead of each of these meetings, and I thank particularly Victor Ressa, Jeanette Velasquez, Janine Cleach-Jensen, Kamal, and Francis Cahill, among many others, for organizing a great and always improving ZBA process. With that, let's get going. First, I'd like to take judicial notice of the fact that on November 12th, 2021, the governor of the state of Illinois signed a disaster proclamation declaring all counties of the state of Illinois a disaster area due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. This disaster proclamation is in effect until December 12th, 2021. Thus, Section 71 of the Open Meetings Act has been met. Second, I'm making a determination pursuant to Section 7E2 of the Open Meetings Act that an in-person meeting of the board is not practical or prudent. Similarly, I'm making a determination that pursuant to Section 7E5, that because of the disaster declared by the governor, it is unfeasible for at least one member of the Zoning Board of Appeals or its chief administrative officer or its chief legal officer to be physically present at the meeting place, in as much as we have no meeting place. Third, this meeting will operate under the emergency rules governing the conduct of remote public board meetings and provisions for remote public participation, promulgated first by my predecessor, now by me, and which are posted to the board's website. In line with these emergency rules, today's meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals is a virtual meeting that is being simulcast to the general public via live streaming. It is also being recorded. We have established these virtual hearings in keeping with the governor, the General Assembly, the mayor, and city council's goal to continue government functions while maintaining transparency and public safety. But there are technical limitations to this format that we must collectively manage, particularly with respect to the presentation of new evidence during a hearing, the ability for applicants and objectors to resolve objections or amend proposals during the hearing, and the participation of large numbers of people. As a result, any material to be presented to the board, whether by applicants or members of the public, was required to be submitted in advance of the hearing. For those who do not regularly appear before the board, I will go over a few things for those participating. Number one, we are operating under the emergency rules. So for all applicants, objectors, and their attorneys, if you did not send us your exhibits by the cutoff date and time, you will not be able to reference them. Number two, all participants will be listed as attendees within the Zoom meeting until your matter is called. At that time, we will transfer you to a panelist. There will be a short switchover where you will lose the feed, so don't be surprised by that. Number three, if you are here in opposition to a matter, when your matter is called, please raise your hand on the Zoom so that we know you are here and so that we can transfer you to be a panelist. Number four, once you are set as a panelist, please present your case. Board staff will be presenting the PowerPoint exhibits for everyone as we normally do, so you will not need to manage sharing your screen. Number five, please be mindful of background noise and please mute yourself when you are not speaking at all times, including right now. Number six, in addition, please note that we have a court reporter preparing our record. So it is important that two people do not speak at the same time. If that happens, you'll see me muting. Number seven, if you are an active participant in this meeting, please do not watch the live stream. This will cause audio interference. I'm going to say it one more time. If you're an active participant in this meeting, please do not watch the live stream in tandem. Number eight, please make sure you identify yourself when you are speaking. This goes for attorneys, applicants, members of the public, and board commissioners. Since all of us are remote, we and our court reporters cannot always see who is talking at any given time. I will also be administering oaths for each witness individually to accommodate for this. Number nine, if an applicant or anyone in opposition to the application has any technical issues presenting their case and thus is unable to proceed, we will attempt to continue the matter until the end of the call in order to create time to resolve the issues. If unsuccessful, we will continue the matter until a subsequent meeting. Number 10, After your matter or matters are concluded, please leave the Zoom meeting to ensure adequate capacity. If you are interested in continuing to watch our meeting, which we of course hope that you are, I encourage you to watch the live stream, which is accessible from the ZBA's website. Now, I'd like to call this virtual meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order. I will take a roll call to establish quorum. Commissioners, after I call your name and you state that you are present, please verify that you can hear and that you can see me. Commissioner Saul.
Present, I can hear and see you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Sanchez.
Present, I can hear and see you.
Awesome. Commissioner Esposito.
Present, I can hear and see you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Toya.
Present, and I can hear and see you as well.
Thank you very much. I am present, so quorum is established. The minutes of last month's meeting have been distributed. Unless there are corrections, I move that we approve the minutes as distributed. Commissioner Toya seconds. Commissioner Saul.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, they are approved. I move that we approve today's agenda. Commissioner Toya seconds. Commissioner Saul.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the agenda is approved. Now we're going to take continuances and withdrawals. There's a few that I know we have in front of us, so I'll start with those. But if you're here to request a continuance or a withdrawal of your matter, please raise your hand and we'll get to you. So first up, is anyone here from calendar number 476-21-S? This is Counselor Tom Moore. Okay, we'll circle back. Is anyone here for calendar number?
I am here.
Okay, great.
Sorry, I had to switch. Anyway, I'm here. So we've been working with the with Nancy and the Planning Commission, Planning Department. This is an old church that hopes to be a transitional shelter, transitional residence.
Yep.
And because it's an old church, there's just a lot of issues that the planners would like to pin down before we move forward. So I'm going out there next week and I'm meeting the architect, and we hope to resolve all the issues. And so we'd ask if we could have the December date.
Great, and thanks, Tom. So we are a hardline rule moving everything to January. And that will be the third January of the month, January 21st, 2022. How does that sound?
Fine, thank you very much.
Great. Okay. So again, this is calendar number 476-21-S. We'll be hearing this matter on January 21st, 2022, and no further notice will be given.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Okay, how about anyone for calendar numbers 485-21-Z and 486-21-Z?
Morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Tom Pekarsky from the law firm of Gordon and Pekarsky, appearing on the cases you just referenced, 485 and 486-21-Z. The premises affected is 1952 North Bissell Street. Our architect is working with the building department to update the official denial. That hasn't happened yet. We procedurally, we just want to make sure that everything is okay, so that there isn't an issue down the line when we should you grant this in the future, that we don't have a problem with the building permits and obtaining building permits in the future. So I would ask for a continuance on both of these matters.
Yep. Great. Okay. Thanks, Tom. So we are continuing, you probably just heard, to January. The 2-month continuances. So for these January 21st, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, so again, for everyone on the call, these are calendar numbers 485-21-Z and 486-21-Z. We're continuing to January 21st, 2022, and no further notice will be given.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, is anyone here for calendar number 367-21-S? This is at 3557 North Long Avenue.
I'm here, Mr. Chairman.
Hi, Counselor. Morning.
Hi, good morning. Sorry, I just got advanced. Hi, good morning, Mr. Chairman, and honorable members of the board. For the record, real quick, my name is Sarah Barnes, and I'm an attorney at the law offices of Sam Banks. So this proposal is for a Starbucks drive-through. Starbucks is tweaking a little bit of their operational plan and working on a bit of a different type of proposal for their cafes in light of evolving consumer preferences. So this would be kind of the first of its kind in the city of Chicago. As a result, we are working with DPD, but we also wanted to do a community meeting to get some feedback from the neighborhood because they're excited about it, and Starbucks wants to get some feedback. So we are seeking to continue it. It has been continued once, Mr. Chairman, but only one time.
Yep. Okay. Yes, Counselor. This makes sense. So again, January 21st, 2022. Sound good?
Perfect.
Okay, great. So everyone on the call, this is calendar number 367-21-S. We're going to continue to January 21st, 2022, and no further notice will be given.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you. Okay, we might circle back. I believe that someone from the 43rd Ward Alderman's office might be on. We're going to check for 485-21-Z and 486-21-Z. It's continued, and I know they agreed as well. I just want to give them the opportunity to speak if they so please.
Chairman, I have two people raise their hand. Should I promote them to see what?
Let's see.
Wilma Rice.
No, the last names here would be Taylor or Smith. I believe they left. I'm hearing from Victor that they left. So we are good on 485 and 486.
Okay. And I just want to take a second to say that if you're here for a case which has not been called, you don't have any questions, please raise your hand when the case is called. You don't need to raise your hand at this time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, agreed. I'll echo that. So right now, only raise your hand if you're requesting a continuance or withdrawal. Okay, so I see Annette Kane raised their hand. So can we promote Annette?
I think she just keeps pressing her raise hand button. Miss Annette, can you just leave that icon alone? Just don't press it. You think you're lowering it, but you're actually raising your hand.
I'm trying to keep it from being unraised.
No,
just
don't
continue to
even
keep
touch
raising.
it.
Yeah.
I'll lower it for you, and now you don't need to touch that icon.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
don't
you.
worry, Ms. Kane. I just want to make sure you're not requesting a continuance.
No.
Okay, great. Anyone else on requesting a continuance or a withdrawal?
I have Wilma Rice who raised hand, so I'm just gonna.
Yeah, let's see.
Wilma Rice, can you please unmute? Yeah, you're unmuted now. We still cannot hear you. No, we cannot hear you. I think your microphone is not working. No. No, we still can't hear you. You may want to leave the meeting and join back in again and select your computer for your audio. Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see. Did we lose her?
Yes, Chairman, she left, so she's probably going to join back. Ms. Rice, are you able to unmute yourself now? Yes, we still don't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right now we can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Ms. Rice,
I'm sorry, I had two devices on. I had my iPhone on and my computer, so I cut my computer off.
don't worry. So right now we're discussing continuances and withdrawals. So are you requesting one?
I'm with Annette Kane on case of 401-21Z. Did you say that case was continued?
What calendar number? What number was it? Sorry.
401-21Z at 12701 Halsted.
That has not been continued.
You say have not?
Has not. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We'll be hearing that matter.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. See you later in the call. Okay. So final offer. Anyone here requesting a continuance or withdrawal? Okay, let's get going. So first calendar number is calendar number 454-21-Z. I am recusing myself from this matter, so I'm going to make sure the parties are on, and then Commissioner Toya will take over from there. So do we have Andrew Harrison and Michael Wechter?
Andrew Harrison is here.
Great. Okay, Andrew, do you have a Michael Wechter coming with you?
I thought he was. I sent him an email, but I have not heard back. He's
Okay.
my architect.
Okay, well, we've got you. So with that, Commissioner Toya, take it away.
Absolutely. So welcome. Good morning. I want to remind everyone that we'll be going through this process. This is our first ADU applicant. So I want the we'll have the applicant put on the case. I want to swear them in. So could you please raise your right hand and identify yourself for the record?
Sure. My name is Andrew Harrison at 2218 West Leland.
Great. Do you swear to tell the truth in these proceedings?
I do.
Very good. All right. So we want to go deep on this. We want to hear what the hardship is, and I'm going to turn it over to you right now.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman and board. So I'm trying to establish an ADU in the back of my lot with a 2-car garage, and the ADU would be above the 2-car garage. Due to the size of my lot right now, they're unable to build the ADU to keep the 2 parking spots that are required, as well as maximize the ADU for multi-generational living. So I'm requesting variance of the setbacks to accommodate that. From my understanding, the issue is that the stairs are on the outside of the ADU itself, and the way the ADU codes have been written, those stairs count against the livable area because it's over 6 feet and goes into the unit itself. It matches the neighborhood profile to have stairs that would go up and land, for example, on the top of a garage to have a patio that would be allowed. But since these stairs go directly into the ADU instead of landing on the top of a roof, it requests a variance is needed for that.
Is there any way you could do these stairs internally?
Not currently, no.
So this is your hardship. All right. have you talked to your neighbors on both sides of you? Have you talked to your block club? How do they all feel?
Yeah, I've talked to neighbors on both sides. They're supportive. I've also talked to the alderman, and he, I believe, submitted a letter of support for this project. He believes in the ADUs and that this is in kind of a theme with what the rules are. The neighborhood seems very supportive of the neighbor to the east and the west I've talked to directly.
Right, just to educate my colleagues. So you're only going up 21 feet where the ADU allows up to 22 feet. So again, your hardship is the stairs being external, and you're saying there's no way you can do the stairs internally. All right.
Yeah, and you can see there, like on the stairs, there will still be there will be 3 feet from the edge of the stairs to the lot line of the neighbor, so it maintains its current distance. And then it comes to the east neighbor, it stays where the garage is currently.
Right. And we have no opposition here. So obviously you have talked to your neighbors and the people on the block. And like you said, we got a letter from the alderman. So that's all good. We always like to hear from the neighbors, the local alderman. And like I said, there's no opposition here. So that's good to hear. Does any commissioners have any questions for Andrew?
This is Commissioner Sanchez. Could you just explain why these stairs can't be internal?
Yeah, the stairs can't be internal because it would force the building just frankly to be larger, and so the building would actually get closer to the neighbor's lot line. So I'm actually just trying to keep it consistent with the rest of the neighborhood, where we keep 3 feet from the lot line, and then you'd have stairs, and then you'd have the garage. And if they expanded the building, then I might go over the 700 square feet that's allowable for ADUs. So right now, I believe my square footage is at like 663 to stay under that 700.
So if the stairs were internal, would you still be able to maintain the two garage parking spots?
No, sorry, that's what I meant. So it's like you either have to extend the building and then get too close to the neighbor, or you lose the parking spots. And keeping the current parking was also part of the ADU rules.
Okay, thank you.
Right. And then if you did try to, as you went deeper here, you would have to be in front of us anyway then, because you would be beyond the 21 feet, right?
Correct.
All right. So one way or another, you'd be here, even if you could figure out the internal. All right. Any other questions from board members? All right, great. This is like I said, our first ADU case. We're happy to hear it. We hope we do a lot more of these throughout the city. This is something the city really wants to do to bring more people into the city, and like you said, multi-generational family, to live together. So this is great. All right, we'll take it under consideration. Now I'm going to turn it back to our chairman.
All right, thanks everyone. And thanks Commissioner Toya. I know everyone's going to be disappointed that might be his only matter today, but maybe we'll call him back, because
I always love to pinch.
We always learn from Commissioner Toya, so I appreciate it. Okay, let's go to the next matter. It's calendar number 455-21-S, and this is at 2342 West North Avenue. As the applicant gets situated, I'm going to read the Department of Planning and Development's recommendation. The Department of Planning and Development recommends approval of the proposed body art service tattoo shop. So Jacqueline Wagner, let me know if you're on.
Hi there, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Lovely. Let me start my video so you can see me here.
Good.
If that's. Oh, hold on. There we go. Oh no.
Recording in progress.
For some reason, okay, there we are.
No
I'm a little
worries.
challenged with Zoom. My apologies.
We can hear you. Just make sure you don't have it on 2 screens, because we'll get a little bit more feedback. But right now I can hear you. So Jacqueline, can you state your name and address, please?
Sure. Jacqueline Wagner. Oh, I do have feedback. I'm so sorry. Give me one moment.
It's okay.
Yeah, you're on two devices, so you can either disconnect the phone you're calling in from, or just use the your other device.
Okay, yeah, let's.
You just
Oh,
disconnect
sorry,
the phone.
you're on mute.
Okay, does this work well? Again,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No,
Okay,
no worries. Can you just state your name and address, please?
yes, Jacqueline Wagner, 3963 West Belmont Avenue.
Great. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Great. And Jacqueline, do you have anyone else with you? I have on my list that Michael Wolin might be here as well.
Yes, he is notified of the meeting here today. Awesome. Hi, Michael.
Great. Perfect. Okay. And Michael, I'll just go ahead and swear you in. Will you state your name and address, please?
Mike Wolin, 5 Revere Drive, Northbrook, Illinois.
Great. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you. And we recognize your expertise. You've appeared many times. So Jacqueline, what brings you here today?
I am hopefully looking to open a cosmetic tattoo studio right at the edge of Wicker Park there. So no body art services will be done. It's strictly cosmetic tattooing, permanent makeup, microblading, lip blush, and eyeliner. I'm also looking to take apprentices and actually become a in-person like hub for cosmetic tattoo supplies, since you can't often buy them in person, only online. So I'm trying to be the first of its kind here in the city for other permanent makeup artists.
Great, great. And yeah, will you give us on that note a little bit of your just background and expertise in the area?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am going on my 4th year of doing permanent makeup, and it's been amazing that I've been so successful in the small amount of time to open my own storefront and studio. It's a woman-owned and woman-led business so far, and what I've learned in like this industry has set me up for so much success, and I really want to help bring that to not only other women but the community, and bring some money in and be a really fun, welcoming hub for everyone in Wicker Park.
Great. That's fabulous. And will you tell us a little bit about what certifications are required on this type of body art, and just confirmation that you have them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's actually a little too simple. I will admit that. I'm trying to push for some stronger regulations in cosmetic tattooing and tattooing in general, but the state allows anyone to tattoo as long as they have completed a bloodborne pathogen certificate. You do that yearly. And other than having proper health insurance, and I'm on like my 8th or 9th actual class of certification, but statewide, it's just that bloodborne pathogen certificate. So that's all done and established for me as well as my staff. We take it yearly.
Great. Any questions from the board for Ms. Wagner? Okay, Jacqueline, I hear none. So thank you very much for your time today, and good luck on everything. We'll take this under consideration.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Yep, have a good one.
You too.
Okay, everyone, we're going to go to calendar number 456-21-S. And this one, I'm going to swear in Nancy Radzovich to read the department's recommendation. So Nancy, are you on? Either Nancy or Steve Lanziano.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Okay, Nancy, can you please state your name and address?
Yeah, Nancy Razovich, Assistant Commissioner for the Zoning Bureau, Department of Planning and Development.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Chairman, if I could just interrupt for a second, I think on the last matter, we do need to get the appraiser on and have him swear to his report.
Okay. Sorry, Nancy and everyone. This is why it's good to have a litigator on the board. So Mike and Jacqueline, and Mike, are you still on? That's Mike Wolin.
I'm promoting him back in, Chairman.
Okay.
I am here, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Sorry about that, Mike. And let's see if we have if we have Jacqueline still on. Jacqueline Wagner, are you still on?
No, Chairman, she left.
Okay. I think, Mike, I think we can just get you on the record, kind of reinstating everything you heard, and then just swearing to your report, which we have.
I can abide to everything that Jacqueline said. I've seen the property. I was at that property 3 different occasions. My report stands on its own. There is vacancy up and down North Avenue in this area. And my affidavit discusses all the facts in my report.
Great. Thank you very much. That's good for me. And sorry, I won't forget you again.
No, that's okay. The hours of operation are consistent with the other retail on that street as well.
Okay. I think that's all we need. So if you're good, we're good.
Okay.
Great. All right. Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, back to Nancy Radzovich. Nancy, as we lead into 456-21-S, could you please read the department's recommendations?
Yes.
Thanks.
The Department of Planning and Development recommends approval of the proposed nail salon. The department finds that this proposal complies with all applicable standards of the zoning ordinance, is in the interest of public convenience, and will not have a significant adverse impact on the general welfare of the neighborhood. The department also finds the nail salon will be compatible with the character of the surrounding area in terms of building scale and design and operating characteristics. Lastly, the proposed nail salon is designed to promote pedestrian safety and comfort.
You're muted, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Brian. I'm like 2 strikes already and on the first hour of the day. Okay, Tommy Sanchez, are you on? We're going to be looking for any potential objectors as well.
Chairman, I don't see Tommy Sanchez. If Tommy Sanchez is logged, okay, there we go, Danielle.
Yeah, if you're an objector or if you're the applicant, please raise your hand.
Or if you're Tommy Sanchez, because I can't see you. If a person is calling from phone, they can press *9 on their phone to raise their hand in Zoom. *9, just pressing it 1 time will raise your hand. And if Tommy Sanchez is logged in as different name, please raise your hand.
Okay, we've got Daniel. You can unmute and let us know what your relationship is.
Oh, could you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, we have, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I am the owner of the building and also the nail salon, and Tommy Sanchez is my business partner. She's here as well.
Great. She's, just to confirm, is she with you on your stream? Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So I just want to give one final, making sure that, are there any objectors for this matter? Okay, sounds like none. So I'm going to swear you both in, and then if you just walk us through why you're here today and a little bit about your background related to it. So first, Tommy, can you state your name and address?
Tommy Sanchez, 5953 South West Parkside Avenue, Chicago.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes, I do.
Great. Okay, Daniel Duran, will you state your name and address, please?
Daniel Duran, 5953 South Parkside Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60638.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Okay, great. So can you guys tell us a little bit about what brings you here today?
Well, currently we have a nail salon next door to this building, and we've been there going on for 4 years in December. We had the opportunity, the great opportunity, to purchase the building next door from Liz. She was a flower shop there, beautiful woman, and she retired. So we bought the building, and now we're wanting to move the nail salon next door. And of course, we need a special use because we are less than a special use license, because we're 1,000 feet less from another nail salon currently. We have backing from the alderman. She's very happy to see this building be rehabbed. And currently we are waiting for our building permits due to the special license.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Tommy, can you tell us just a little bit about your experience in the industry?
So I've been in the industry for about 20 years. I used to work downtown, and as of 5 years ago, I decided to open my own nail salon. And we decided in Garfield Ridge, and it's been very successful. It'll be 4 years in December, and I never imagined that it would evolve to what it's evolved. I mean, we are pre-booked 3 months in advance. Even with COVID, we've been very successful. And now I feel like we have the opportunity to expand a little bit more due to the high demand. So we were excited when the building was up for sale, and we decided to do it. And now we're just waiting.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And on that, Mark, how many people do you intend to employ?
So right now we have, it's 7 in total.
Okay. Okay, great. Other questions from the board members? Okay, I hear none. So thank you everyone for your time, and we will take this under consideration.
Thank you.
Yep. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to go now to calendar number 457-21-S. If you are the applicant and have not been promoted, or if you are an objector on this matter, please raise your hand and we'll get you promoted as Nancy Radzovich reads the department's recommendation.
Good morning again. The Department of Planning and Development recommends approval of the proposed nail salon. The department finds that this proposal complies with all applicable standards of the zoning ordinance, is in the interest of public convenience, and will not have a significant adverse impact on the general welfare of the neighborhood. The department also finds the nail salon will be compatible with the character of the surrounding area in terms of building scale and design and operating characteristics. Lastly, the proposed nail salon is designed to promote pedestrian safety and comfort.
Thank you very much. So do we have a Yengok tea here? Let's see, if you're the applicant, can you please raise your hand?
Chairman, Yan Gauti was here and just got dropped off. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's give him a moment, and if not, we'll circle back to this one if we don't get him within the next minute or so.
We have him. I'm promoting him.
Great, thank you.
Yan Gok, you have to accept the promotion. You see the prompt? You have to say, yes, I want to be a panelist. Please press on that prompt that comes up, the window that comes up. You have to say, yes, I want to be a panelist. Or just unmute yourself. There you go.
Hello.
Hi, is this Yan Gok?
Hi. I'm sorry because I'm not good on your computer.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry at all.
I'm so nervous.
Yeah, so we're on your matter now for 5835 West Montrose. And before we get started, can you please just state your name and address?
Okay, my name is Yến Ngọc Thị Lam and the address is 5835 West Montrose Avenue. My home address is 9501 North Ozanam Avenue.
Great, thank you very much. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about what brings you here today and your background in the field?
Oh, I would like to apply for a special use for nail salon on the property at 5835 West Montrose. And I have experience more than 10 years to do nail salon. And I really appreciate to have the nail salon over there on 5835 West Montrose.
Okay, so do you already have a nail salon? Am I right? And this is the second one, or is this the first one?
This is the second one. I have experience. I have one on Montrose.
Central.
Central. I mean the Central. 3419 North Central. So I do have experience, and I realize I would like to have another one. So.
And do you run the nail salons? Do you manage them?
Yes, I manage them.
Great. And how many employees do you anticipate? I see a lot of stations.
Yes, it's really like 11 employees all the time.
Sorry, how many did you say?
11 employees for the time being. So I don't know in the future, but my plan is 11.
Okay, great. What made you choose this location when you were expanding?
Oh, I think it's the great neighborhood and a lot of demand over there. So I have been learning, study around there. So I think like public demand. So I really appreciate it.
Great. Okay, other questions from the board? Okay, ma'am, thank you very much, and we will take this under consideration.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You too. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks.
Okay. Calendar number 458-21-S, and I'm looking for Counselor Mike Noonan, so let me know when you're on. All right, there you are, Counselor. Okay, so we are 458-21-S. Counselor, do you have your applicant as well?
Yes, the applicant is here. I see him signed in. It's Jason Berg is representing the applicant today.
Great. And again, I'm just going to keep saying this, a little bit of a new protocol, but if you're an objector on this, please raise your hand. Great. Mike, I'm going to go ahead and read the department's recommendation.
Great.
The Department of Planning and Development recommends approval to expand an existing drive-through facility to serve an existing Burger King restaurant by adding a tandem drive-through lane and electronic menu board, provided that the special use is issued solely to the applicant, Tri-City Foods of Illinois, LLC, and the development is consistent with the design and layout of the plans and drawings dated November 8th, 2021, prepared by Anchor CM, with landscape plan prepared by Anchor CM, Terra Engineering Limited. Counselor, go right ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Mike Noonan. I'm a land use attorney with Foley and Lardner. We have offices at 321 North Clark Street, Suite 3000 in Chicago. I represent the applicant here, Tri-City Foods of Illinois, LLC. Here with me today are applicant representative Jason Berg, Director of Construction and Facilities at Tri-City Foods, as well as urban planner Jason Jarrett of Okrent Kissel Associates. And also available for questions is Tracy Willie, Director of Design for Anchor Construction and Management. The applicant, Tri-City Foods Illinois LLC, is before you today seeking a special use to expand an existing drive-through at 2701 Northwestern Avenue. They've submitted this request with permission of the landowners, PSK Investments LLC. The previous special use for this location was granted in 2012. However, the applicant is proposing to expand the existing drive-through by adding a second menu board in front of the existing board, creating a tandem drive-through. The footprint of the building will not be modified, and the existing window will not be moved, but there will be cosmetic updates and improvements to the building facade and finishes, as well as extensive site work to enhance the driving and pedestrian experience. The applicant has improved circulation by adjusting the ADA parking to widen the drive aisle and adding additional landscaping. As set forth in the findings of fact, this request meets the criteria in the zoning ordinance for approval of a special use for a drive-through restaurant and will have a positive impact on the surrounding area. First, I'd like to call Jason Berg, the applicant's representative. Mr. Berg, please state your name, profession, and business address.
Hi, my name is Jason Berg. I'm the Director of Construction and Facilities of Tri-City Foods of Illinois. The applicant, our offices are located at 1400 Opus Place, Suite 900, Downers Grove, Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Berg.
Yeah,
Is it correct?
One second, Mike, sorry. Jason, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Berg. Is it correct that you filed this application with the consent of the landowners, PSK Investments, LLC?
Yes.
Is it also correct that as Director of Construction Facilities for Tri-City Foods of Illinois, you have specific knowledge of the subject property and this project?
Yes, I do.
Is it correct that you provided a signed witness affidavit in connection with this matter?
Yes.
And Mr. Chair, I've provided this affidavit to the board along with the applicant's proposed findings of fact. Mr. Berg, if you were to continue to testify today, would your testimony be consistent with the statements in your affidavit?
Yes, it would.
And Mr. Berg, has Tri-City reached out to its neighbors regarding this project?
Yes, we have, but have not received any comments or concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Berg. Next, I'd like to call Jason Jarrett.
Yes.
Mr. Jarrett, please state your name, address, and profession for the record.
My name is Jason Jarrett. I'm a certified planner with the firm of Okrent Kissel Associates, and our office location is 141 West Jackson in Chicago.
Thank you.
And Jason, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you, and we recognize your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Jarrett, is it correct that you are retained by the applicant to conduct an urban planning analysis of their special use application to expand this existing drive-through restaurant use by adding an additional electronic menu board? The site's located in M1-2 Light Industry District at the subject property.
That is correct.
Thank you. Have you also prepared a report detailing your analysis, findings, and conclusions? And is that report contained in the materials submitted to the board and admitted into evidence?
I have, and it is.
Thank you. And Mr. Jarrett, Is it correct that if you were called to testify further, that your testimony would be consistent with the findings and conclusions contained in your report, specifically that the proposed development is consistent with the general criteria for approval of special uses and will have minimal impact on the surrounding area?
Yes.
And Mr. Jarrett, as you're aware, the plans associated with this project have been revised after receiving input from DPD and CDOT. Have you reviewed those plans?
I have.
And do the changes made on behalf of DPD and CDOT change the conclusions in your report?
They do not.
Thank you, Mr. Jarrett. That concludes our case in chief. Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to take any questions that the board might have about this matter.
Great, thank you, Counselor. Wondering if you can just go, maybe the applicant, go a little bit more in depth on how the addition of the tandem lane won't change the operations as currently are within the drive-through and parking area.
Sure, I'll refer that one to Jason Berg.
If you could go to the site plan, that would be great. I think maybe that'll help explain. Perfect. So, the issue that we have in moving cars faster through our drive-through is to be able to take orders faster. So when we add a second menu board, it allows our inside people, which can move faster, to get the cars through. So while it almost looks like you're pushing cars back, we're actually moving them through considerably faster.
Okay. And is there an increased level of sound with this addition?
No.
Okay. Because I'm correct that you're very near residential, right?
I'm sorry?
You're near residential?
Yes.
It's directly across the street, is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. Have you had complaints on sound in the past? Oh, you're on mute now.
I was unmuted. No, not to my knowledge, no.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you, everyone. Sounds like none. So we will take this under consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the board.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to calendar number 459-21-Z, and this is at 3430 West Beach Avenue. So Councilor Alfred Chiano, let me know when you're present.
Present. Good morning, Chairman. Sorry about that.
Oh, no
Good
worries.
morning, Chairman, members of the board.
Morning, and we have, just want to make sure we have the applicant as well as, again, any objectors, feel free to raise your hand. It looks like
I believe my client's on.
Yep. I see
Sergio Alvarez.
Santiago. Okay, yep, Mr. Alvarez. You have a Mr. Arenzana as well?
I believe he's available by phone.
Yep, great. Okay, Counselor, go right ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Attorney Alfred Quijano, Q-U-I-J-A-N-O, and I represent the applicant, Mr. Santiago Alvarez. With us today is the applicant, Santiago Alvarez, Mr. Structural Engineer Luis Arenzana, and the project manager, Miguel Gagnon. For a brief introduction as to the project, this property is located at 3430 West Beach and is zoned RS3. It sits on a substandard lot size of 24 by 123.33. The building area is only 1,044 square feet, and the proposed is 2,063 square feet. The applicant is seeking a variation to reduce the minimum required west side setback from 2.0 to 0, the east side setback to be 2.66, and a total combined side yard setback from 4.8 to 2.66 in order to construct a proposed two-story addition, rear porch, and interior remodeling of an existing one-story single-family residence with basement per plans. I would like to call my first witness, Mr. Santiago Alvarez, the applicant, if he can be sworn in.
And Mr. Alvarez, will you please state your name and address?
Santiago Alvarez, 3430 West Beach Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60651.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Great.
And Mr. Alvarez, state your name for the record.
Santiago Alvarez?
And you're the owner of the property at 3430 West Beach, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when did you purchase that property?
January 2013, I believe.
And when you purchased it, it's a single family, one-story home, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you wanted to add an addition to that home for your growing family.
Yes, sir.
And you contracted with an architect and a kind of a design build firm to construct a second-story addition, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was one Ronald Gardner and a company named Group Design Associates at 9725 Southwestern Avenue in Chicago, Illinois, 60643, correct?
Correct.
And he provided you plans of the addition.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And he posted a sign at your property stating that if you needed permits and copies of plans to call their office, correct?
Correct.
And they constructed the second floor addition.
Yes, sir.
It was completed.
Yes, sir.
And how much did you pay for that addition?
Around 170,000.
And it was only after they had been built that you discovered that it was built without the permits.
Correct. I got a letter from the city.
And if the relief that we're seeking today is not granted, this would cause you a significant financial hardship, isn't it not?
Correct, yes.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have for this witness. If you'd like to ask him questions, or if you'd like me to call the second witness.
Hey, Counselor, continue with the second witness and we'll circle back with questions.
If I can have Miguel Canyon. Miguel on the line?
Yeah, well, is he on Luis Aranzanas?
Yes. He's by phone.
Got it. I don't see a Miguel.
Okay. Well, look.
Maybe he's. So we have someone raising their hand. Mac Miami.
That's him.
Okay, great. And I promoted, so they just have to accept the promotion to be able to speak.
Well,
so yeah, to be promoted, you have to accept. I'm pushing. So maybe Counselor, if you have another witness, we could go to them.
I'll go with Luis.
Great.
Luis, do you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
And you prepared plans for this addition, correct? Your firm?
Yes.
And I, Counselor, sorry, I need to get Luis sworn in.
I'm sorry.
So Luis, will you state your name and address, please?
My name is Luis Arenzana. I'm licensed from the state of Illinois as structural engineer and engineer. My address is 1601 is Sherman Avenue, Evanston, Illinois, 60201.
Great, thank you very much, sir. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes.
Thank you.
You.
Yes, Luis. This is Alfred. You prepared plans for this addition, correct?
Yes.
And in your opinion, would the addition alter the essential character of the neighborhood?
No.
And your firm has participated in obtaining permits for such construction in this community, in the Humboldt Park, Logan Square community, correct?
Yes.
And we prepared an affidavit that was submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which you signed and we submitted. And if you continue to testify, would your testimony be consistent with that affidavit?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions?
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. I think you'll maybe have your other witness promoted. Can you remind me the name, Counselor?
You know what? We could proceed without that. I think we have everything that we'll need.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Yeah. So any questions from the board on this one? Counselor, sounds like we have what we need in the findings of fact and from this call. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll take it under consideration.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, next up, we're going to calendar number 460-21-Z. And so I'm going to be looking for Counselor Steve Friedland, and I will note, and she can confirm that Commissioner Saul is recused from this matter.
Good morning, Chair. That's correct.
Great, thank you.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me now?
Yep, Counselor, we can. So let's make sure we have your applicant on. And again, any objectors, please raise your hand. So looking for a
Thank
mic.
you. Yes, we should have on Michael Roan and Tyler Brown as well.
Great, I see both of them. So go right ahead.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, my name is Steve Friedland. I'm with the law firm of Applegate and Florence Thompson, representing Brinshore Development. This is for a project that will be at 827 to 837 West Wilson Avenue. Brinshore is proposing to develop a 73-unit affordable building at this location. It will be for seniors, and the purpose of the request is to remove the requirement of a loading berth on site. I think with that, I can probably just go to my witnesses and we can establish our basis for this through that testimony, if that's okay.
Yep, that works here.
Both Tyler and Michael are on. Do you want to swear both of them in and then I'll just proceed?
Yep, so Mike, Rowan, can you please state your name and address?
My name is Michael Roan and my business address is 666 Dundee Road, Suite 1102, Northbrook, Illinois.
Great, and do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, so Tyler Brown, will you state your name and address, please?
My name is Tyler Brown with Land of Baker Architects. Address is 1625 West Carroll Avenue, Chicago 60612.
Great, and do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start with Michael. Michael, please confirm you're an authorized representative of Brinshore Development, the applicant for the proposed variation, correct?
That's correct. I am the authorized representative of Brinshore Development, the applicant for the proposed variation.
Great. And it's true.
And real quick, Counselor, can you go a little bit into depth on that role? I know there's an authorized person. We need to show some sort of employment relationship.
Sure. So Michael, please confirm you're an employee of Brinshore Development. You're also the project manager with respect to this development. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Yes. Thank you. So Brinshore is proposing to develop a new 6-story, 73-unit affordable housing residential building for seniors at this location. That's right?
Yes.
And the affordable senior housing will be rented to seniors who earn between 30% of area median income and 80% of area median income, correct?
Correct.
And the property, because of this, the funding that it receives, will have an affordability covenant of what, 30 years?
30 years, correct.
Thank you. And just give a brief explanation of the funding sources for the development.
Sure. The project will be funded with 4% low-income housing tax credits and other government subsidies. The development is also receiving a significant contribution from the neighbor, the Lakeview Towers Residents Association. The Residents Association is contributing 11 million in proceeds from a loan refinancing for this project.
Gotcha. So our request is to remove the required loading berth. And if you had to include a loading berth in the project, how would it have to be accommodated at this site?
So yes, that is the request for the variation. So there's two possible options. First, we could place it inside the covered parking area. That would result in the entire building needing to be taller to accommodate the loading berth. And that would add significant expense to the construction. The second alternative would be to place a loading berth outside of the building, but it would be located directly on Wilson Avenue. And because the property does not have access to a public alley, this would create possible conflicts with the sidewalk.
Gotcha. So just to be clear, the only public way access for the property is off of Wilson Avenue.
That's correct. There's no alley access to the property.
And if you did provide the loading, I'm sorry, with respect to Wilson Avenue, it's correct that you have gone to Alderman Kappelman and requested a loading berth space on Wilson Avenue. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We did get that approved by City Council.
So there is a loading zone that would be available to the building in front of the building on Wilson Avenue.
That's correct.
So if you had to accommodate the loading berth using one of these methods you noted, would that create a practical difficulty or particular hardship to the project?
Yeah, it would either increase the cost of the project, for which there's no source of payment, or it would create a loading berth outside of the building, which would create potential traffic conflicts.
And with respect to that increased cost, do you have a sense as to how much that might be?
We do. We checked with the GC and they gave us an estimate of approximately $250,000.
So would you agree that the practical difficulty associated with the loading berth is due in large part to the lack of alley access on this site?
Yes.
And based with your familiarity of the area, do you think this variation would alter the essential character of the neighborhood?
No.
And do you think the particular physical surroundings, the shape or topographical condition of the subject property results in a particular hardship upon your project as distinguished from a mere inconvenience?
Yes.
And because of the lack of alley access, the conditions upon which the petition for the variation is based wouldn't be generally applicable to other property within this zoning district, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So as noted earlier, the property is being developed as affordable senior housing, and an increase in the construction costs would require either additional governmental subsidy or some other source of subsidy, because you can't increase the rents to your tenants to make up that difference, right?
That's correct.
And finally, do you think the variations, if granted, will be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property?
No.
Okay. That's all I have for this witness, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any questions from the board on this witness?
This is Commissioner Sanchez. I've got a question about the potential for a loading berth on Wilson. You indicated that you're going to have a loading zone on Wilson, but how is that less disruptive than a loading berth?
I think the thought process was that to have a loading berth that would be adjacent to the building or in that area where the cars are entering the garage would mean that you would have trucks that would be crossing the sidewalk and potentially at times blocking the sidewalk, assuming that a truck didn't move up far enough, which would cause a potential problem with pedestrian traffic. When you have the loading zone out on the street, just in a parking spot, you're not going to have that kind of conflict. That would
So is a pedestrian safety concern?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Esposito. You described this loading zone as a parking spot. Can you be more specific about its dimensions?
I know that it will be in front of the building. I will be honest with you, I'm not sure how, what the distance is between the signs that will be put up, but it's the city's standard loading zone for a location that goes through city council and gets designated.
Thank you.
And on that note, can you talk about just like in practice how move in and move out will go in what a loading zone that sounds like a pretty small space?
Yeah, and by the way, these are pretty small apartments. I think Michael, if you want to speak to that, but I don't think we expect much by way of resident moving in and out with large trucks. I think we're talking about an Amazon or UPS delivery truck is the more likely, but Michael, could you speak to that?
Yeah, we have a mix of studios, ones, and a few 2-bedroom apartments, but for the most part, they're for seniors, so they're relatively small.
And you don't anticipate lots of moving in and moving out from these units of the residents, correct?
I do not, no.
How do you envision move in and move out? Because there's some turnover on these buildings, of course. It's an elderly facility and there's 73 units. So I think we just need more of a picture on how the move in and move out will occur, even if you think it'll be minimal.
Michael, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think what the coordination with management, and since we'll be having the approved loading zone on the street, we can petition the city to make sure that there's ample room for these people to move in and out, and I think on the days that people are moving in and out, we're just going to have to make sure that the management is aware that movers are going to be coming in from the street.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, these units have, they're fully, all of the utilities and the, kitchen equipment and such is in the units. People will be moving in maybe chairs and the bed and and Mike, I would also say, and Michael, I don't know if you would agree with this, but that some people will just drive their car into the parking lot and take stuff out of their car and go up to their
unit. That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Okay, so this is again Commissioner Esposito. So if you could elaborate on that. When somebody moves furniture in, are they entering the front door of the building? Are they using a service elevator? Can you just kind of walk us through the procedure, please?
Yeah, I mean, Tyler, maybe you can contribute to that. I imagine that people will be moving in from the street into the front doors, but also there will be people parking in the parking garage and coming through the parking garage to move up the elevators as well, and the staircases.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor, you want to go with the next witness?
Yes. So Tyler, please confirm you, as you stated before, you're an architect with the firm of Landon Bone Baker.
Yes, I am.
And you developed, along with your colleagues, the plans for the proposed building at this location?
Yes, we did.
So you understand we're proposing to eliminate the loading berth. And could you also explain sort of the reason for this request from your perspective as an architect?
Yes. As was mentioned, the only access to the site is from Wilson Avenue because the site doesn't have an alley. And in order to accommodate the loading space, the loading area would have to be placed inside the interior parking area. This would result in the entire building having to be taller to accommodate the loading space, which would add significant expense to the project cost. A second alternative would be to place the loading area outside of the building, but this would be located in front of the building directly on Wilson Avenue, which would create conflicts with pedestrian traffic on Wilson. It would also create aesthetic problems because of the building would have a loading berth and at times loading trucks parked in front of it in the front yard.
So would it be your opinion that strict compliance with the zoning code would create a practical difficulty or a particular hardship to the applicant?
Yes.
And do you think those practical difficulties or particular hardships are due to a unique circumstance?
Yes, the lack of an alley access is not typical in the city.
So based on your familiarity with the area and the project, do you think the variations, if granted, will alter the essential character of the neighborhood?
No, they will not.
And do you think the particular physical surroundings or shape or topographical condition of the subject property would result in a particular hardship upon the applicant as distinguished from a mere inconvenience?
Yes.
So again, because this site doesn't have alley access, do you believe that the conditions upon which the petition for variation is based is unique to this property versus generally applicable to other property in the zoning district?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you think the granting of the variation would be detrimental to the public welfare in any way?
No, I do not.
And would this particular variation impair adequate supply of light or air to adjacent property, or substantially increase congestion on the streets, or increase the danger of fire or public safety, or diminish property values within the neighborhood?
No.
And finally, do you think the granting of the variation will be detrimental to the public welfare? Maybe I've already asked that. I don't need to ask it again. That's all my questions for Mr. Brown.
Okay, thanks, Counselor. Any other questions from the board? All right, we'll take this under consideration. So thanks very much, everyone, for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your weekend. Okay, next up is calendar number 461-21-Z. And this will be Counselor Fatikas. I see some hands raised. So again, if you're objecting on this matter, go ahead and raise your hand. Did we get a Leah Ingham promoted?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay, Leah, if you're on, can you let us know if you're part of the applicant or if you're objecting?
I live next door, so I'm possibly objecting. I just wanted to hear what everything was about for this rehab.
Okay. So what I'll do then is we'll do our objector process, and then when we get to you, I'll walk through that. But when we get to you, you can decide if you want to object or if you want to say. But how this process will go is we'll start with the applicant. The counselor will give the case in chief and get on their witnesses. And then we'll move over to Ms. Ingham to see if there are remarks there, whether for or against. And Ms. Ingham, at that point in time, you can ask questions of the applicant. Then we'll go back to the applicant for either rebuttal or closing statement. And throughout this process, the board can ask questions at any time. So with that, Councilor Fatikas, all on you.
Good morning, Your Honor. Nick Fatikas from the law offices of Sam Banks. I am here this morning on behalf of the applicant, Salvatore Zamaripa. Salvatore owns the subject property at 4653 North Harding. The subject lot measures 25 feet wide by 125.29 feet deep, and it's currently improved with a two-story building containing 2 residential units. The applicant is proposing to convert the property to a single-family home. His plans call for enclosing a portion of the front porch, adding a partial third-floor addition, and a rear addition to the two-story portion of the home. As you can see from the survey that was provided with our findings of fact submittal, the existing structure was built favoring the north side of the lot. The subject property is already non-conforming with respect to its front and side setbacks. So in order to permit the additions so that they follow the existing building wall lines, the applicant is seeking variations to reduce the front, north side, and combined side setback total on the property. We have two witnesses available to testify. Again, the applicant, Mr. Salvatore Zamaripa, and our project manager, Ms. Pamela Alexander. And with that, Chairman, I would ask to swear in the two witnesses.
Great. Okay, Salvatore Zamaripa, will you state your name and address?
Sure, it's Salvatore Zamaripa, 4653 North Harding Avenue, Chicago, Illinois.
Thanks. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes.
Great. And Pam Alexander, will you state your name and address?
Pamela Alexander, 50 South Clifton Avenue, Elgin, Illinois, 60123.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Sal, again, you own the subject property at 4653 North Harding?
Yes.
As I described in my introduction, the subject site is improved with a two-story, two-unit residential building. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're proposing to convert the two-flat to a single-family home. Is that right?
Yes.
As part of your program, you're also proposing to enclose the covered porch at the front of the home and construct a partial third floor and rear two-story addition to the home. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're doing this to add living space for you and your family to use and enjoy.
Correct.
And in order to permit the project, you're requesting variations so that the additions can follow the existing footprint of the existing two-story structure.
Yes.
And is it your understanding that my office filed witness statements on your behalf in this case?
Yes.
And if you were to continue to testify, would that testimony be consistent with the statements we provided?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Pam,
Yes.
again, you're the project manager assigned on this project,
Yes, I am.
and you designed the proposed single-family home conversion plan as well as the additions proposed to the existing structure. Is that right?
Yes.
And in your professional opinion, is the existing non-conforming building footprint what creates the practical difficulties or particular hardships in this case?
Yes.
And that's because, again, the building's front setback is already established as non-conforming, and the structure was built favoring the north side of the subject lot. Is that right?
Yes.
To be clear, though, the proposed front and side setback dimensions will match the existing side and front setback conditions on the lot today.
Yes.
And that's because, again, we're purposely following existing building wall lines so that the additions are functionally added to the existing structure.
Yes.
And with respect to the rear addition, the two-story portion of the addition, that's about a 6-foot addition at the rear of the building.
Yes.
And that on its own does not encroach into the rear setback of the property, right?
No, it does not.
And Pam, is it your understanding that my office filed witness statements on your behalf in this case?
Yes.
And if you were to continue to testify, would your testimony be consistent with the statements we provided?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Chairman, if you or the board members have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them now.
Great. Yeah, any questions from the board before we move to Ms. Ingham? Okay, so let's go to Ms. Ingham, and reminder, I'm going to swear you in, and then you can either state support or objection if you have it. But you can also ask questions of the applicant, which might be valuable for why you're here. So Ms. Ingham, will you state your name and address, please?
Leah Ingham, 4655 North Harding Avenue.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes.
Great. And Ms. Ingham, so do you object to the matter, or do you just want to ask some questions?
I just had some questions.
Okay, go right ahead.
So on the document that we got, it said that the north side setback was going from 2 feet to 0.87 feet. And that's going to be adjacent to us. And I just was wondering what that setback entails. Will that be an overhang, or will that be the wall being moved?
Chairman, if I can speak to that, hopefully I could address that issue pretty quickly. The reason there's a technical setback reduction is because we're proposing on the north side of the lot so that the rear addition can follow the building wall line 6 feet further back from the existing end of the building. It's already set at the reduced setback. It's a technical reduction from 2 feet to the proposed based on the fact that this is new construction or in addition to the existing building. So there will be no overhang. The side wall will essentially extend 6 feet further back as part of the program.
Thank you. And I also just had a question about the front setback moving from 20 feet to 12.74 feet, what that entails.
And that's because we're proposing to enclose the portion of the open deck at the front of the building. It's simply so that we can square off the building. The front of the building will not come any closer to the front of the property or the street. It's essentially enclosing the space that you can see on the photograph that's currently left open. So again, it's a technical setback so that the front of the building can be consistent and match. But it won't be any further than what's currently there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Great. Any other questions, Ms. Ingham, or anything else you want to state on the record?
No, that's it. That the explanation helps me to see things more clearly. So thank you. And I don't have any objections about it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for clarifying that for us. So with that, I will turn back to the counselor, and counselor, feel free to close, and then I'll give, actually, let me give a final offer to board members now if there are any questions from the board. Okay, counselor, go right ahead.
Chairman, again, the proposal is to really improve and invest in the property for the homeowner to use and enjoy for his family. We're simply making changes to the building to accommodate the family, and all of the proposed relief is intended to follow existing building wall lines. So there'll be no greater encroachment than what currently exists on the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will take this under consideration. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's do one more set of matters and then take a break. So next up is 462-21-Z and 463-21-Z. And for these, I believe we stick with Councilor Patikas.
Yes, and I think we have two witnesses, James Kramer and Bill Kokalius, and I saw both were on as participants. So I just want to make sure they're both promoted.
Yep, I see them promoted. And again, if there's any objectors, please just raise your hand at this time. Okay, I think you can go right ahead, Counselor.
Great, thank you so much. Again, Nick Fatikas from the law offices of Sam Banks. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Valley Lynn LLC. The applicant owns the subject property at 1850 North Washtenaw. The subject lot measures 25 feet wide by 126 feet deep, and it's currently improved with a two-story principal building containing 2 units and a detached coach house containing a 3rd residential unit. The applicant is proposing to permit dormer additions to the attic level of the existing principal building to increase the size of the 2nd floor unit in that structure. The issue is that the existing building is non-conforming with respect to its front and side setbacks, as well as its existing height dimension. And as you can see from the survey that we submitted, Again, in this case, the existing structure favors the north side of the subject lot. So in order to permit the dormer additions so that they follow the existing building wall lines, the applicant is seeking variations to reduce the front, north side, and combined side setback total, and to increase the building height by 6.1% of the existing height dimension. I have two witnesses available to testify on behalf of the applicant, Mr. James Kramer, and our project architect, Mr. Bill Kokalius.
Great. James Kramer, can you state your name and address, please?
James Kramer, excuse me, 1529 North Claremont, Chicago.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Great. Okay, Bill Kokalius, please state your name and address. Oh, you're on mute.
Bill Kokalius, Axios Architects, 188 North Wells, Suite 300, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you.
And James, again, you are the manager of the applicant, Ballylin LLC,
Yes.
and that entity owns the subject property at 1850 North Washtenaw. Is that right?
Yes.
As I described in my introduction, the subject lot is improved with the two-story principal building that has 2 units and a detached coach house that has a 3rd unit on the property.
That's correct. Yes.
And your plan is to permit dormer additions to the front building or the principal building's attic level. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're proposing to do this so you can increase the size of that 2nd floor unit. Is that true?
Yes.
It's currently configured a little bit smaller and contains 2 bedrooms and only 1 bathroom. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
And actually, it's been vacant for about the last 2 years. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
But if you're able to permit the dormer additions, you're intending to reorganize that unit so that it has an additional bedroom and an additional bathroom and a much larger living space. Is that right?
Yes. Correct.
And you believe the proposed configuration will be more marketable and in demand given the comparable units in the subject area. Is that true?
Yes.
Now, in order to permit the project, we're requesting variations so that the dormer additions can follow the existing building wall lines, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, the footprint of the principal building and the detached coach house, those footprints will remain exactly as they are today.
Yes.
And James, is it your understanding that my office filed witness statements on your behalf in this case?
Yes.
And if you were to continue to testify, would that testimony be consistent with the statements we provided?
Yes.
And Chairman, I'd also note for the record that we did submit a financial analysis showing the investment and the anticipated cost and return based on that investment. And with that, Bill, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Again, you're a licensed architect in the state of Illinois,
Yes,
and you've previously testified in that capacity many times before the board. Is that right?
that's correct.
And you designed the proposed dormer additions to the principal building at the subject property?
Yes,
And it's your professional opinion that the existing non-conforming building footprint and the existing non-conforming building height dimension create the practical difficulties or particular hardships in this case. Is that right?
that's right.
But to be clear, the proposed front and side setback conditions will match the existing conditions on the lot.
That's correct. The perimeter of the building does not change. Neither does the ridge of the roof.
Right. So, and the proposed 2-foot 4-inch height increase, as you just stated, does not change or alter the character of the building, right?
No,
So essentially the peak of the roof stays the same.
that's correct.
And that's because, again, the additional height is really being limited to the existing attic level so that it can meet the habitability standards as a residential unit.
Yes,
Bill, is it your understanding that my office filed witness statements on your behalf in this case?
yes, sir.
And if you were to continue to testify, would that testimony be consistent with the statements we provided?
Yes,
Chair, that concludes the applicant's case in chief. We'd be happy to answer any questions you or the board members might have about the project.
Great. Thank you, Counselor. Any questions from the board? Okay, we've got what we need on this one, so we'll take it under consideration.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to call a 15-minute recess. That brings us to 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Saul,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
Great, I'm a yes. So see everyone back here at 11. All right, welcome back, everyone. I move that we reconvene this November 19th, 2021 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Saul,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
Great, I'm a yes, so we are back. We're going to move along to a string of special uses. So this will be calendar numbers 464-21-S, 465-21-S, and 466-21-S. Before I read the department's recommendations, which I want to warn everyone might take a second, let's make sure that we have the witnesses. And this one's Counselor Fatikas.
Chairman, we are also joined by Alderman Harry Osterman.
Okay, great. So
Alderman Osterman's on the next file.
he's on the next one. Okay, great. And raise your hand if you are by chance objecting to this one, or if you otherwise need to be promoted. Okay, I'm going to start reading, Counselor, the department's recommendations because I see a few of the applicants. So everyone should be on by the time I'm done. For calendar number 464-21-S, the Department of Planning and Development recommends approval to establish a religious assembly use with 297 seats and an accessory community center, provided that, number one, the special use is issued solely to the applicant, Nigerian Islamic Association of USA, Inc. Number two, the development is consistent with the design and layout of the plans and drawings dated November 18th, 2021, with floor plan dated November 23rd, 2021, all prepared by Grand Designs Architecture. Number three, prior to the issuances of any building permits, the applicant provides evidence of approval from Illinois Department of Transportation, IDOT, in consultation with the Chicago Department of Transportation, CDOT, on the final design of the crosswalk, ADA compliant sidewalk ramps, and other associated public improvements to facilitate enhanced pedestrian access from the off-site parking lot at 8550 South Chicago Avenue, per ZBA number 465-21-S and 466-21-S. And number four, prior to the issuance of any certificates of occupancy, the applicant has completed the off-site parking lot and the crosswalk, ADA compliant sidewalk ramps, and other associated off-site improvements approved by IDOT. So I'm going to go on to the recommendation for the second special use, and I want to note these do vary a little bit, so I've got to read them all. So for calendar number 465-21-S, the Department of Planning and Development recommends approval of it to establish an off-site accessory parking lot to satisfy the 37 parking space requirement to serve a proposed religious assembly use at 8561 South Chicago Avenue, ZBA number 464-21-S, provided that, number one, the special use is issued solely to the applicant, Nigerian Islamic Association of USA, Inc. The development is consistent with the design and layout of the plans and drawings dated November 18th, 2021, prepared by Grand Designs Architecture. Number three, prior to the issuances of any building permits, the applicant provides evidence of approval from Illinois Department of Transportation, IDOT, in consultation with the Chicago Department of Transportation, CDOT, on final design of the crosswalk, ADA compliant sidewalk ramps, and other associated public improvements to facilitate enhanced pedestrian access to the religious assembly use at 8550 South Chicago, per ZBA number 464-21-S. And number four, the applicant completes the crosswalk, ADA compliant sidewalk ramps, and other associated offsite improvements approved by IDOT, concurrent or prior to the completion of this parking lot. Okay, final one. For calendar number 466-21-S, the Department of Planning and Development recommends approval to establish a 56-space non-accessory parking lot to serve a proposed religious assembly use at 8561 South Chicago Avenue, per ZBA number 464-21-S, provided that, number one, the special use is issued solely to the applicant, Nigerian Islamic Association of USA, Inc. Number 2, the development is consistent with the design and layout of the plans and drawings dated November 18th, 2021, prepared by Grand Designs Architecture. Number 3, prior to the issuances of any building permits, the applicant provides evidence of approval from Illinois Department of Transportation, IDOT, in consultation with the Chicago Department of Transportation, CDOT, on the final design of the crosswalk, ADA compliant sidewalk ramps, and other associated public improvements to facilitate enhanced pedestrian access to the religious assembly use at 8550 South Chicago Avenue, per ZBA number 464-21-S. And number 4, the applicant completes the crosswalk, ADA compliant sidewalk ramps, and other associated off-site improvements approved by IDOT concurrent or prior to completion of this parking lot. All right, Councilor Fatikas, take it away.
Okay, thank you again, Chairman Nick Fatikas from the Law Offices of Sam Banks. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, the Nigerian Islamic Association of USA, an Illinois not-for-profit corporation. The NIA, as it's known, owns the subject properties at 8561 and 8550 South Chicago Avenue. The two properties are located immediately across the street from one another in the South Chicago neighborhood. The property at 8561 South Chicago is improved with a 2-story masonry building. The NIA is seeking to adapt and reuse that building so that it can function as a mosque with an accessory community center. The property at 8550 South Chicago Avenue is currently vacant. The NIA is seeking to establish an off-site surface parking lot with 56 parking spaces at that property. The mosque property is located in a C1 zoning district, and a special use is required in order to permit the establishment of a religious assembly use at the property. The parking lot property is zoned M1 and requires 2 separate special uses. First, a special use is required to establish the lot as a non-accessory parking lot. And second, a special use is required to establish 37 required parking spaces to serve the mosque as off-site parking spaces. So we're here today seeking 3 companion special uses. Again, 1 for religious assembly at 8561 and 2 for the off-site parking proposed at 8550 South Chicago Avenue. We have 3 witnesses available to testify this morning on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Fusadin Lawal, our project architect, Mark Pelliateri, and our land planning consultant, Mr. Kareem Musawir. And as a matter of housekeeping, Mr. Chairman, nearly identical cases were presented by this applicant to the board back in May of 2016. Those were call numbers 19716S and 19816S. And both of those applications were ultimately approved by the board. Copies of the resolutions were submitted with our findings of fact. Unfortunately, project financing stalled the project, and the special uses lapsed. The applicant is back before you today, ready to proceed with the project, and of course needs to reestablish the use for their intended uses. The only technical difference between the current cases and the cases back in 2016 involves the treatment of the off-site lot. There was no requirement in 2016 to establish it as a non-accessory lot. However, the current write-up requires it. So we're filed those as companion applications. Otherwise, the 297 person capacity and the 56 off-site parking spaces remain consistent. And with that, I would ask to call my first witness, Mr. Lawal.
All right, Mr. Lawal, will you please state your name and address?
My name is Fasudin Lawal. I'm the Deputy Imam of the Nigerian Islamic Association. My address is 20113 Cypress Street, Linwood, Illinois, 60411.
Thank you very much, sir. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Great.
Chair, do you want to call Mark and Kareem to swear them in, or do you just want me to proceed with Mr. Lawal?
Hey, if it works for your process, yeah, I can swear in. Is it going to be Mr. Lawal, Mark, and Kareem are the other witnesses here as well?
Those are the testifying witnesses. Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's just get him sworn in. So Mark Pelletieri, will you state your name and address?
Mark Pelletieri, 333 South Maple Avenue, Oak Park, Illinois, 60302.
Great. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, Kareem Musawir, will you state your name and address, please?
Yes, Kareem Musawir, 221 North LaSalle Street.
Thanks, Kareem. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Great. And we acknowledge your expertise.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Counselor, go ahead.
So much. Mr. Lawal, again, your organization, the applicant, owns the subject properties at 8561 and 8550 South Chicago Avenue. Is that right?
Yes.
And as I stated in my introduction, 8561 South Chicago is improved with the two-story masonry building.
Yes.
And 8550 South Chicago is currently a vacant, unimproved lot. Is that right?
Yes.
And again, you're proposing to adapt and reuse the existing buildings so that the existing building so that it can function as a mosque with an accessory community center. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're proposing to develop the currently vacant lot with surface parking to serve the mosque.
Yes.
As just a matter of background, again, the existing two-story building has actually been vacant for about 15 years now. Is that true?
Yes.
And during that time, it's fallen into a bit of disrepair. Is that right?
Yes.
And your plans involve an extensive renovation and revitalization of the existing building. It calls for a lobby, meeting rooms, and the mosque's main prayer sanctuary on the first floor of the building. Is that right?
Yes.
And then 2 additional offices for the mosque's use would be located on the building's second floor, right?
Yes.
At capacity, the mosque's prayer room would be able to hold up to 297 people.
Yes.
And that's actually more than sufficient because most of your daily services are probably attended by anywhere between 15 and 20 members. Is that right?
Yes.
In terms of regular practice, is it true that you hold 5 daily prayers 7 days a week?
Yes.
And those are at 6 a.m., 1 p.m., 3:30 p.m., and then again at sundown and at 7:45 p.m. Is that right?
Yes.
And your main prayer is held on Fridays at 1 o'clock. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's when you expect to have a larger showing from the congregation. Probably upwards of 200 people would attend that service. Is that right?
Yes.
In addition to the religious services, you also intend to operate again as a community center. Is that true?
Correct. Yes.
And your plan is to hold religious education and history classes, English as a second language classes, tutoring services, and then outreach programs such as food and clothing drives. Is that right?
Yes.
All in, your non-for-profit entity is budgeting to invest over $5 million to renovate the mosque building and develop the parking lot. Is that true?
Yes.
So you're truly making an investment and intend this to be the NIA's home in the on the Chicago South Side for a very long time. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mark, are you still with us?
Yes.
Again, you're the project architect in this case?
Yes.
You developed the plan for both the mosque rehabilitation as well as the offsite parking plan. Is that true?
Yes.
And over the course of the last probably week or so, we've worked with the Department of Planning and Development to make sure that the plan for both sites complies with not only CDOT standards, but also the landscape standards. Is that right?
Yes, we did.
And Chairman, again, this is a combination of 3 special uses. I just want to make sure Mark's available for questions if the board has any of him.
If we can, Nick, go to Kareem and we'll circle back with questions generally.
Okay, perfect. Mr. Musawir, you're still with us as well?
I am.
And you are familiar with the subject properties at 8551 and 8550 South Chicago Avenue?
Yes, for a long time.
In fact, you actually provided testimony in the 2016 ZBA case. Is that right?
Right.
And the scope of your assignment in today's matter was to evaluate whether the requested special uses would comply with the general criteria for special uses as set forth in the code. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you have visited the subject property in person?
Yes,
And based on your on-site inspection, you believe the proposed uses are consistent and compatible with the surrounding land uses. Is that right?
that's correct.
And Kareem, you prepared a report summarizing your findings and conclusions in this matter?
I did.
And it's your understanding my office submitted a copy of that report with our findings. Is that right?
Right.
And if you were to continue to testify, would your testimony be consistent with the conclusions that you provided in your report?
Yes, it would.
Thank you very much. Chairman, that concludes the applicant's case in chief. Our witnesses are available to answer any questions you or the board members might have about the proposal.
Yep, thanks, Counselor. Any questions from the board? Okay, I think we have the end of this one. So I thank everyone for your time, and good luck on the project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
weekend. Okay, we're going to go into another string of special uses. Calendar numbers 467-21-S, 468-21-S, and 469-21-Z. So one variance at the end. These are all at 1103 West Berwyn Avenue. I believe that we have objectors on this matter. So if you need to be promoted, please raise your hand and we'll get you promoted. Great. Okay. All right, before we go into process, I'm going to go ahead and read the department's recommendation. So for calendar number 467-21-S, the Department of Planning and Development recommends approval to establish a residential use below the second floor for a proposed 5-story residential building with residential use on the ground floor and 1,840 square feet of retail space, provided that the development is consistent with the design and layout of the plans and drawings dated November 15th, 2021, prepared by 2RZ Architects. And for calendar number 468-21-S, the Department of Planning and Development recommends approval to reduce the required parking from 77 spaces to 36 parking spaces, with 77 bicycle parking spaces for a proposed 5-story 77 dwelling unit building, which is a transit served location, provided that the development is consistent with the design and layout of the plans and drawings dated November 15th, 2021, prepared by 2RZ Architecture. Okay, so before we get going, because I know we have objectors on this matter, a little bit on process. Some of you are familiar with it, some of you are not. First, we will have the applicant put on their case in chief. The board will ask questions as required about the case in chief. Then we'll go over to the objectors and give the objectors time to both state their objection and ask questions of the applicant. If you are an objector, we don't allow repetitive objections in the interest of time. We have a lot to get through. So if you have one leader saying the objections and then someone wants to add on, just make sure that the add-on is unique, but we'll give you all the time you need to ask questions of the applicant as well. So after that part, we go back to the applicant, and the applicant can provide rebuttal. They can ask questions of the objectors, and then they will close out. Throughout this time, board members might be asking questions for clarification. So with that, Counselor, take it away. And I just want to note that if you're an objector and you're still in the attendee list and have not been promoted, just raise your hand and we'll get you promoted.
Chairman, before I begin, I just wanted to make sure, I believe Alderman Osterman has signed in as well.
Yep. You are
And I-
right. So, Alderman Osterman, do you prefer to speak at the beginning or the end, or throughout? Doesn't matter to us. You're on mute, or your sound isn't working. Let's see.
Chairman Osterman, yeah, you're unmuted in Zoom, but we still cannot hear you. Would you like to leave the meeting and join back in again? Sometimes that helps. Okay.
Great. And we won't forget you, Alderman, don't worry. Okay, with that, Counselor, go right ahead.
All right, very good. Again, Nick Fatikas on behalf of the applicant Berwyn Acquisitions LLC. The applicant owns the subject property located at 1103 West Berwyn Avenue. The subject site consists of a single zoning lot measuring 100 feet wide by 150 feet deep. It's a corner lot situated at the intersection of West Berwyn Avenue and North Winthrop, and it's located immediately adjacent to the Berwyn Avenue CTA station, which is a red line station. The property is currently improved with a one-story retail building and a detached masonry garage. The applicant is proposing to take down the existing structures and develop the property with a new 5-story mixed-use building containing grade-level retail space, a total of 77 residential units, and off-street parking, garage parking for 36 cars. In order to permit the residential units that would be located on the first floor of the building, as well as the proposed off-street parking reduction pursuant to the Transit-Oriented Development Ordinance, the applicant is seeking 2 special uses. The applicant is also seeking variations to permit front, side, and rear setback reductions for the proposed building. In part, the variations are necessary in this case because the subject property abuts residential RM5 zoning. So front and side setbacks are imposed on our lot, which is zoned B1-5, that would otherwise not apply to our property or to a property zone B1-5. We have 3 witnesses available to testify this morning on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Stan Bernstein, our project architect, Mr. William Hornoff, and our land planning consultant, Mr. George Kissel. And with that, I'd ask to call my first, or if we could swear in the witnesses, I'd then ask to call my first witness.
Great. And Nick,
Yes.
if you could just go down the list and I'll throw them in from there.
Yeah, so it would be Stan Bernstein, William Rodon Hornoff, and George Kissel. Those are the 3 testifying witnesses.
Got it. Okay. Stan Bernstein, will you please state your name and address?
Stan Bernstein, 1363 Shermer Road in Northbrook, Illinois.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Great. Okay, William Hornoff, will you state your name and address?
William Hornoff with 2RZ, 1629 North Elston.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you. George Kissel, will you state your name and address?
Yes, my name is George Kissel, president of Oak Rent Kissel Associates with offices at 141 West Jackson.
Great. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you. And we acknowledge your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stan, you're one of the managers of the applicant Berwyn Acquisitions LLC. Is that right?
That is correct.
And that entity owns the subject property at 1103 West Berwyn Avenue. Is that right?
Correct.
As I described it, you're proposing to develop the 15,000 square foot site with a new 5-story mixed use building. Is that true?
That is true.
And the proposed building was designed to meet the intent of the Transit-Oriented Development Ordinance because it is located immediately adjacent to the Berwyn Avenue CTA station. Is that right?
That is correct.
During our ongoing community review process, you committed to developing a 5-story design that better fits within the character of the neighboring multi-unit residential buildings. Is that true?
That is true.
So again, you're seeking a special use to permit residential units below the 2nd floor of the proposed building.
Correct.
And you're also seeking a special use to reduce the off-street parking ratio pursuant to the Transit-Oriented Development Ordinance from 77 parking spaces to 36 parking spaces. Is that right?
That is correct.
And lastly, we are seeking variations to permit the front, side, and rear setback reductions to fit the 5-story building on the lot. Is that right?
Correct.
And although the underlining B1-5 zoning for the subject lot would actually permit a taller building, the proposed design was intended to address community concerns related to the neighboring 3- and 4-story multi-unit residential buildings. Is that true?
That is true.
And Stan, before we conclude your testimony, is it also true that our team worked for about a year with Alderman Osterman and representatives of the local community on this proposal?
That is correct.
In fact, we met with the local Chamber of Commerce, right?
That's right.
We also held an open meeting, informational meeting for residents to attend and learn more about the project. Is that right?
That is true.
And we also participated in a virtual community meeting hosted by Alderman Osterman. Is that true?
That is true.
And again, through that review process, you refined and ultimately developed the specific plan set being presented to the zoning board today. Is that right?
That is right.
And we also, through that process, committed to working with a low-income housing trust fund so that 5 of the proposed residential units can be rented to qualified low-income housing tenants. Is that true?
That is true.
And that's even though the technical ARO or affordable ordinance does not apply in this case. Is that right?
That's correct.
Still, it's a commitment you've made to the alderman and the community as part of our program for the site.
That's correct.
Stan, is it your understanding that my office filed witness statements on your behalf in this case?
Yes, it would be.
And if you were to continue to testify, would that testimony be consistent with the statements we provided?
Yes, it would.
Bill, are you on?
I am.
Again, you're a licensed architect in the state of Illinois,
I am.
and you designed the proposed 5-story mixed-use building at the subject property. Is that right?
That's right.
In terms of design, your plan calls for both retail and residential units to be located on the first floor of the building, and then the additional residential units on floors 2 and above.
That's correct.
And the mixed-use first floor was important in this case because while Berwyn is more retail or mixed-use in nature, North Winthrop is almost entirely multi-unit residential. Is that right?
That's right.
So instead of introducing new retail space along North Winthrop, your plan wraps residential units around the corner of the building to again transition or match the established residential character on that side of the property. Is that right?
That's right.
With respect to the requested variations, one of the particular hardships or practical difficulties for the subject property is the imposition of front and side setback requirements because of the abutting RM5 zoning district, correct?
Yes.
Because again, B1-5 zoning lots on their own don't have front or side setback, technical front or side setback requirements. Is that right?
Correct.
Still, the proposed building design generally follows the setback conditions already established on the lot today. Is that fair?
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd ask to refer you and the board members to the survey submitted with our findings of fact that show the existing building's footprint on the subject lot. As you can see, the existing building covers the entire width of the lot along West Berwyn Avenue from the alley east to Winthrop and the entire frontage along North Winthrop from Berwyn to the lot's south property line. We've also provided photos that show the existing building and setback conditions on the lot. Bill, in addition to the technical setback requirements imposed by the abutting RM5 zoning district, is it also your opinion that another hardship or practical difficulty was in trying to match the general pattern of development in the immediate area?
Yes.
And more specifically, most of the neighboring multi-unit residential buildings on North Winthrop are 3 or 4 stories in height. Is that right?
That's right.
So as we discussed with the applicant, there was a concerted effort with the alderman and the community to remain at a 5-story building height for this proposal. Is that right?
Correct.
And that's even though, again, a taller building could be built than what's currently proposed based on that underlying B1-5 zoning, correct?
Yes.
To that point, though, if the building was designed to comply with the required setbacks, it would have to be at least 1 story taller to utilize the permitted floor area and unit allowances. Is that right?
Yes, at least.
And presuming the requested relief is granted, you believe the proposed 5-story design will be more consistent and compatible with the neighboring multi-unit residential buildings.
Yes, absolutely.
And with respect to the rear setback reduction, only the first floor of the proposed building will extend to the rear lot line. Is that right?
Correct.
Floors 2 through 5 were set back 15 feet from the rear property line in order to provide separation between our property or our building and the L tracks that run immediately west of the subject property.
Yes, that's right.
And the rear setback reduction specifically allows you to maintain retail frontage along Berwyn and maximize the number of off-street parking spaces that can be located within the building's garage.
Correct.
And Bill, is it also true that there are other buildings on our side of the block that also encroach into the rear setback?
Yes, there are.
In fact, Mr. Chairman, we did submit an aerial view from the zoning map that shows just 2 buildings south of ours are apartment buildings or multi-unit buildings, I should say, that extend all the way to the rear property line. There's a bit of a mix between the building depths on each of the lots to the south, but there are a handful of lots that are improved with buildings all the way to the rear property line. So again, Bill, specific to the rear setback, you believe that request will again still be consistent and compatible with the neighboring land uses?
I do.
Bill, is it your understanding that my office filed a witness statement on your behalf in this case?
Yes.
If you were to continue to testify, would that testimony be consistent with the statements we provided?
Yes.
Thank you. George, are you on?
Yes, I am.
George, the scope of your assignment in this case was to determine whether the requested special uses would comply with the general criteria for special uses as set forth in the ordinance. Is that right?
Yes, along with the variations that are proposed.
And you also consider the additional standards for parking reductions proposed pursuant to the transit served location requirements?
Yes.
You physically inspected the subject property, is that right?
Yes.
And you prepared a written zoning analysis report summarizing your findings and conclusions with respect to the special uses and variations, is that right?
That is correct.
Briefly, though, is it your professional opinion that the proposed ground floor residential units will be consistent and compatible with the surrounding land uses?
Yes, specifically along North Winthrop, as Mr. Hornhoff pointed out earlier, which is almost entirely multi-unit residential in nature. The same can be said for Berwyn Avenue east of the subject property, while Berwyn west of the red line L stop is primarily commercial. That's not the case east of the L stop. The applicant does provide a commercial node adjacent to the red line stop, but provides street-oriented residential as you go further east. This land use arrangement of the ground floor uses is consistent and compatible with the surrounding uses.
And our property is almost like a transition between the commercial to the west and the more residential, multi-unit residential to the east. Is that right?
That's correct. And it appropriately mixes the uses compatible with that transition.
Is it also your opinion that the requested parking reduction meets the additional criteria for transit served locations?
Yes, it does. Obviously, the subject property is immediately adjacent to the Berwyn Avenue CTA station, so qualifies as a transit served location. In order to qualify, the configuration of the ground floor elevations have to follow pedestrian oriented street guidelines. Here, there's an appropriate amount of transparency and street orientation at the ground level for both Berwyn and Winthrop. And the residential parking that's provided for the development is located inside the building, out of sight from the street frontage and accessed by the alley. There are no curb cuts or driveways on Berwyn or Winthrop, and there are enhancements to the pedestrian environment, including planters, enhanced lighting at the residential entrances, the addition to the bicycles that are provided on site to an associated bike repair bench. And also, considering all of those attributes, the proposed development is consistent with the spirit and intent of the standards for transit served locations.
And do you believe the requested variations meet the standards for approval?
Yes, they do. So with respect to practical difficulty or hardship, the need for relief is directly related to neighborhood preference. Through the series of negotiations with the community, the reduction in the maximum height resulted. In order to achieve a viable development under these stipulations, additional building footprint at the ground floor is required. The loss in floor area that would result from the strict enforcement of the required setbacks would render the project financially infeasible according to the applicant's documentation. The front setback along Winthrop, the interior side yard setback are along the adjacent property only required in this case, as mentioned earlier, because of the abutting RM zoning district, and the building setbacks are consistent with what the existing structure provided, which also encroached on those setbacks.
And George, is it your understanding that my office submitted a copy of your written report to the board?
Yes.
And if you were to continue to testify, would your testimony be consistent with the findings and conclusions contained in your written report?
Yes, it would be.
Chairman, that concludes the applicant's case in chief. We'd be happy to answer any questions you or the board members might have about the project.
Thanks, Counselor. Really quick, I just want to note there's a couple, there's a Cynthia Poulton and Adrian Cardenas that we are trying to promote to panelists, and you have to accept the promotion to move over to a panelist. I just want to note that for housekeeping. Any questions from the board?
This is Commissioner Esposito. So just to clarify, along Berwyn, only a portion of the building will be used for commercial purposes compared to currently the entire Berwyn section of the building is used commercially. Is that correct? At the ground floor?
Yes, that is correct. And we've, I believe Alderman Osterman will speak to that. There has been a bit of a demand issue. There's been some retail vacancy. We thought in our proposal, the retail unit or the retail space being closely oriented to the entrance to the CTA station gave it the best chance for success. And as you get further east on even Berwyn, as it wraps around Winthrop, it's more of a residential street. So we really wanted to try and break it up, have both and introduce both so that there wasn't unused retail or new retail introduced along the Winthrop frontage as well.
Thank you.
And I see that we have Alderman Osterman back on. So I just want to ask him if he'd prefer to speak at this point, the case in chief, or at the end. We're up for any process on that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Well, let me speak now, and if there's any follow-up questions that I can answer later, I'm happy to do that. Let me just say to the
Alderman, can I swear you in really quick?
Yeah, sure.
So will you just state your name and who you are?
Alderman Harry Osterman, Alderman of the 48th Ward.
Great, thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes, I do.
Great, go right ahead.
Okay. Want to first commend the ZBA for hearing this, and I want to thank the team from MCZ for working with my community over a lengthy period of time to come up with, I really look at as a design and a building that meets a lot of the needs of the community. One of them is that the community did not want to see a building that was significantly taller than other buildings that were in the community. And the design has a 5-story building that is dense, that is what I would call, a textbook TOD building. What was also very critical for my neighbors, because our community is going through significant improvements that is making it more expensive for people to live, the developer agreed to put 5 units of affordable through the Low-Income Housing Trust Fund that's going to help preserve some affordable units within our community that is really desperately needed. Regarding the commercial, I'll say this, that it was important for the residents that there was some commercial, but I think what also was important was to try to have those affordable units. And the experience in this building under the current building the way it was that commercial along Winthrop was been vacant for the last 20 years. Also important to note that just west of this, we have the Berwyn L station that is under construction for the RPM project. And in 2 years, there's going to be a brand new state-of-the-art CTA station with ADA accessibility that's really going to help our community. But on the commercial side, it was important that there was some commercial. And I think that the building and the design represent that. It's also important, I think, for Representative ZBA to know that just west of the CTA station is Broadway, which is the main part of the commercial part of our community. East of this building is all residential to Sheridan Road. So the design having some commercial, I think, will be used, and the storefronts will be occupied with good businesses. But the overall building, I think, really represents a lot of hard work on behalf of a lot of people that was really supported by the community. It has affordable units. It adds TOD from a transit-oriented development design, has commercial, and does so in a way that building what I would say really blends in with the community. So a lot of good work, a lot of support by the representatives, the neighbors in my community. And I want to really strongly endorse the plan before you today, and I'm available to answer any questions at the end.
Thank you very much, Alderman. Any questions for the Alderman at this time? And if not, it sounds like he's staying on, so we can also circle back to questions at the end. Okay, Counselor, with that, that was your case in chief, correct?
Yes, it was, sir.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do, we're going to move over to the objector side. We still have a few people I know trying to get promoted as panelists. Ms. Poulton, I believe you're unmuted right now. Can you speak?
I can, but I wasn't the one planning on speaking. I was just listening in for Jack Poulton.
Can you speak in general? Because we're trying to get you promoted to panelist.
I was just going to be an attendee on behalf of this witness statement that presented by Jack Poulton.
That's perfect. We just like to always double check that all the objectors that show up have access. So, okay, and we've got Adrian Cardenas, who is unmuted as well. Yes. Okay, great.
Yes, if you can hear me. So for our leader, we're going to pick Jack Poulton to speak on behalf of us. And then if we have anything else to add, we'll probably jump in at the end, if that's okay.
That's great. So I'm going to go over then to Jack Poulton, and as objectors speak, we're going to do the normal process where you state your name and address, we swear you in, and then you can give an objection and ask questions of the applicant. So with that, Jack, can you state your name and address?
Hi, yeah, thanks, Chairman. Jack Poulton at 5248 North Winthrop Avenue in Chicago, Illinois.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, I think first off, I just wanted to raise some concerns that me, and I think as prefaced by Adrian, you might have some of my neighbors jumping on board after me, but I live in the building immediately south of this applicant building in question at 5248. We're the neighbor on Winthrop Avenue, and we stand to be quite significantly negatively affected by the proposed setback variances. It's the third case that we have the most amount of interest in, the reduction in setbacks in 3 directions to 0 feet. We feel, as I said, that there is quite a bit of our general welfare on the line here. And we also feel that the proposal as it exists now is operating ignorant towards the actual reality that the current site exists within. I think that is most obviously evidenced by the fact that in our backyard, there is a 70-foot tall cottonwood tree that doesn't appear anywhere in the construction documents for the proposal. I submitted an exhibit to the board a few days ago that depicts the tree over the property line. I'm not sure if that can be brought up now, but it is close enough. There's no question that the trunk comes down on our property, and so it is therefore our building's tree. But the overhang that the branches, or the overhang of the branches on the applicant property is significant to the effect that a 0-foot setback on the southern side would absolutely necessitate trimming to an extent that could very well harm the tree. And beyond that, the root damage that, yeah, this is the site plan. I think there was one other image that I had submitted that shows the tree, but
Yep, and Jack, I think we're going to be able to get the photo of the tree up. We're working on it.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah, basically the point that I'm making here is that that is a hugely significant component of the community's natural environment. It is older than a vast majority of the built structures in the neighborhood, and we cannot conceive of a possibility where a 0-foot setback does not pose an enormous existential threat to that tree. That tree is significant in ecological capacity. It provides very essential shade to our building, CO2 absorption. You know, there's a push from City Council to be more protective and preservative of the urban canopy. And this is a stellar example of the urban canopy existing healthily. And the setback poses a threat to it that we just cannot really comprehend why it's entirely omitted from the proposal as if it doesn't exist. I think it projects this sort of image of an isolated autonomous development that is just not the reality that that is currently being faced. And furthermore, to the point of our welfare, if you could jump back to the site plan image, this is, you know, not the tree notwithstanding, a 0-foot setback would absolutely compromise just the habitability of our building. Could you perchance show, yeah, so just on this overhead view here, if you look at the north end of our building that borders the proposed southern end of the 1103 Berwyn building, that chamfered edge there on the northern end of our building, that bay window, those are our bedroom windows for north side units. And boxing that in with a 5-story building completely cuts off our access to sunlight, cuts off ventilation, intrudes upon our privacy. And so per special use application, which demands that the proposal be in line with convenience towards existing neighbors and either preserves or improves upon general welfare, this does the exact opposite. This is a complete adverse effect. And again, we're just asking that the proposal be viewed in a more pragmatic sort of consideration. I think the suggestion being made now is that there is nothing that this building has to do with the actual context of the neighborhood. And with regard to future development of the neighborhood in a broader capacity, I think that's an enormously dangerous precedent to set.
And Jack, really quick question for clarification. So is it the south setback that abuts the tree, the setback going from 5 to 0?
It is. It is. I know I was a bit confused when the case was being made, just the terminology of rear setback being used. That rear setback that they had been referred to was the western side that borders the alleyway.
Yep.
The southern side is what I'm referring to.
Okay, so yep, 5246-5248 is your building.
That's correct.
Got it.
And existing just 5 feet off the edge of our building and 5 feet off of the property line is that 7-story tall cottonwood tree that I was making reference to.
Mm-hmm.
And just to the point of the community meetings that they had brought up in their case, we had been led to believe over the summertime, that no significant changes to the existing landscape would be necessitated. But again, that just seems like a vague generalization that cannot in any way be feasible given the actual conditions of the existing site.
And with the, so this is, I'm thinking about the tree again. The south setback going, the request to go from 5 to 0. If it stayed at 5, even with a building this large going up, but if it was at 5, would the tree be able to survive?
Can I say something real quick?
Who's
about the
speaking?
tree?
Who's speaking?
This is Adrian Cardenas.
Okay.
In support of Jack.
Yeah, great. So I'm going to swear you in. Mr. Cardenas, will you state your name and address, please?
My name is Adrian Cardenas. I live at 5248 North Winthrop, Chicago, Illinois. And
great. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, go right ahead.
So thank you. So in support of Jack's statement, we were told over the summer that an expert did come and evaluate the landscape and the trees around the proposed building. And they said that none of the trees were going to be damaged. But when we questioned if our tree was assessed in that study, no one could give us an answer. And I believe that it wasn't. So I think there are two concerns here: the overhang of the tree into the property and then the root system. So I'm sure if they dig in to construct the proposed garage parking spaces, the root system is also going to get damaged, which is going to potentially mean sacrificing the tree. So for them to say that they brought in an expert to conduct a study and not involve this specific tree, I think it's pretty negligent. And so those are the answers that we're trying to get. Like, what happens to the tree once they start digging the root system, the overhang of the tree? So specifically, we want those questions answered, because I don't have that answer, right? So I don't know if it's going to completely damage it or not, if it can be salvaged. So those are the answers that we want clear answers to. I mean, with removing the 5 feet between the property lines, even if it's not removed, the overhang is still going to get damaged. The roots are still going to get damaged. So we just want that addressed, that concern. And so that's the main reason why we are opposing that specific variance. And the other point I was just going to make real quick, the front variance, where it's going to be residential instead of retail space. All of Winthrop in our area, all of it is residential. There's no setback variance removed for residential. It's all so that's why we're not in support of that variance as well. So I don't know if anyone can speak to that from the developer side in regard to the tree and the study that was conducted according to them, and what would happen to the tree.
Counselor, can you address that?
So I can speak to the existing conditions. I would have to defer either to the applicant or the architect on the tree component. But if you look or refer back to the survey for the property, it shows the existing footprint of the footprint of the existing building, as well as the detached garage. And the detached garage and the south side of the building are both on the shared south lot line. I'd also point out that the neighboring building to the south also has a portion of its building that abuts or that is up to the lot line. So with respect to existing conditions and consistency and compatibility, the proposed condition is what we believe is already established on the subject property. And Bill or Stan, if you want to speak to the tree component, it sounds like, you know, we can accommodate trimming to accomplish construction on our side. I believe the objector stated that the tree's trunk is wholly on their side of the property. So we can make accommodations to work with a landscape professional to make sure that the trimming is done in the most advantageous way to better ensure the life of the tree going forward. But that's really all I can speak to on that. Bill or Stan, please feel free to step in.
This is Bill Rodenhornoff. I would echo that. I think that it's something that we certainly could bring in, or the MCZ could bring in an expert to evaluate the trimming of the tree to make sure or ensure that it is healthy and stays, there as, under construction. I mean, I'm not really an authority here, so I don't know if I could add much more.
Okay, Jack, do you want to, do you have any additional questions or?
Just respond briefly to the claim made that the footprint of the proposal matches the existing footprint. I would contest that in two ways. Number one, the existing building does not abut our property line continuously. The freestanding garage on the southeastern corner of the lot does, but that does not run the entire length of our property line. And furthermore, that's a one-story tall building, and the eastern edge, southeastern edge, abuts our property line, but is only 2 stories tall. It is massively consequential raising that to 5 stories. That, at 2 stories tall, you don't pose a risk to the overhanging limbs of the tree. And because it's non-continuous, it doesn't pose a risk to the existing root structure of the tree. A 5-story tall continuous building poses a very significant threat. And just echoing a point that I had already made, the omission of that tree from the construction documents in any way, shape, or form reads to us as something that is at best negligent and at worst wholly dishonest as a way of representing the existing site plan.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board at this time for Jack?
This Commissioner Sanchez, I just have one question for either Jack or the applicant. Has there been any communications between the objector and the applicant before right now?
Yeah, during the community meetings that were held over the summer, again, we had asked questions about the landscape and been met with sort of vague promises that no significant changes would need to be made. We had inquired with Alderman Osterman about the tree, and I was told specifically on a phone call with him over the summer that he was unaware of its size or location, but that he would check with the developer to see what could be done. Since then, we haven't heard any follow-up of any kind. There hasn't been an avenue for further interrogation, and so we haven't. It seems to be something that is just not much of a priority to the developer.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Okay, so with that, I would say if there is another objector on who wants to bring up a new objection or voice any other questions, go right ahead.
Hi, this is Daniel Rempert.
Daniel, I'm going to get you sworn in really quick. It sounds like you were already about to say your address.
Yeah.
Already cut you off, but will you state your name and address, please?
Sure. Daniel Rempert. I live at 5248 North Winthrop, Chicago, Illinois, 60640.
Great. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Okay, go right ahead.
The only other parts that I guess I would just like to add in this discussion, the developer specifically is requesting special use to do residential along the Winthrop side. And as such, to me, that would automatically mean that they would need to stay within that residential zoning ordinance of that setback from the front. versus a commercial space that's happening right now. So even though, yes, the existing footprint is there, if it's now being transitioned to residential, it should be in line with the other residential properties on the street. Additionally, it's much less significant than the tree on our property, but there is Winthrop is a tree-lined street, and building a 5-story continuous building at the front will also require some significant trimming of the trees along Winthrop. And that is, yep, that's the only portion I wanted to add.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions from the board on that? Okay, any additional objectors? I see that we have a 312 number, 312-560-0945. Want to make sure if that person is here to object, they get a chance.
This is Adrian again. I have another objection or question that hasn't been addressed as well.
Okay.
Is it okay if I ask?
Yep, go right ahead.
So as far as our building that you can see here, 5248, right now there is a continuous either gate or fence or the garage on the proposed building that offers privacy and an enclosed space. So I'm concerned when construction begins, that's gonna like open up to like the outside, like what security or safety precautions are going to be taken so that like people can't just like jump a fence or people can get around the construction site and have access to our immediate property and building.
Chairman, I can speak generally to that, and I believe both the applicant and the architect can also follow up. But there are certain requirements as part of the permit process and working specifically with Alderman Osterman on site staging and security. So the entire development site, provided the zoning board allows the project to move forward, would be entirely contained by security fencing. And there would be a staging and, again, build out plan that controls site access through the duration of construction. Again, it's part of the permit process with the city of Chicago. It's also part of our process with Alderman Osterman.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you both. To the 3-1.
Mr.
Yeah, who's
yeah,
speaking?
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Can you hear me? It's Scott Borstein. I'm just dialed in because I'm here for the Public Building Commission case that's later on in the call. I have no objections to the current case.
Oh, thank you, Scott. So are you you're the 312-560?
Yeah.
Thank you. We're new protocol to extra clarify who's on gets a chance to speak. So thanks for letting us know that. Any other
talk to you soon.
Yep, talk soon. Anyone else on who wants to make an objection?
My name is Megan Schmidt.
Okay.
I'm also at 5248 North Winthrop.
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Okay, go right ahead.
So I am an advocate with Jack and Daniel and Adrian, who also spoke in objection to the impact it would have to the neighborhood. I did have a clarifying question for the developers on the line. I believe one of the renderings shown today showed the entrance and exit with a vehicle. It showed even like a semi coming down on Winthrop. Is that correct?
No, there's no vehicular access from Winthrop or Berwyn. The vehicle access is entirely contained or relies on the public alley that runs to the west of the property. But there are no proposed curb cuts or vehicle access points from Berwyn or Winthrop directly.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then one thing I also just want to make note of to the board, obviously this is a large unit with a lot of people, and there is an appeal for the number of spaces, vehicle spaces in the unit. So obviously that would have impact to the street traffic in the surrounding area. I do want to just make note that there's a elementary, a K-8 school at the end of our street. So it's something that as a hopefully a potential parent that I want to be mindful of, that we do want to keep this tree-lined residential area a residential area, and being mindful of the existing culture, I guess, of the street and making sure that that's upheld.
Great. Yep. Thank you very much. I know there's one additional person. I just want to confirm that they do not want to speak. It's S. Valdez.
Yes, I'm here. I'm part of the objection with the 5248 North Winthrop building, but I have nothing to add.
Okay, thank you very much. And finally, any additional people on to object, or else we're going to turn back to the applicant and questions from the board. Okay. With that, I'll go back to Counselor, and Counselor, you know the process. This is your time to rebut and close out, in between which I'll give the opportunity to the board to ask more questions.
Great. I have about 3 or 4 points that I'm going to try and condense as best I can. I wanted to make it clear for the zoning board with respect to the existing conditions on the south side of the subject property. It is not presently and nor will it be proposed a contiguous building on that south side property line. The proposal contemplates 29 foot, about 30 feet, 29 feet and a few inches of that kind of U-shaped section that's open space that allows for light and ventilation to the south portion of our building. As it stands today, if you refer to the survey, there are 93 feet of existing building right on the south side property line. Now, with respect to the Winthrop frontage, one of the objectors made mention to not meeting the residential character or the residential code. And what we've tried to explain is, first off, the special use that allows residential to wrap around from Berwyn on the Winthrop does just that. It keeps it residential. It keeps it a tree-lined residential street. But it also allows us to maintain, with the setbacks, the 5-story building height, because the alternative is a taller building, which is Alderman Osterman and our team learned during the community review process. Many of the neighbors in the immediate area had significant concerns with. So we made, again, a concerted effort to maintain a 5-story height to try and work with the community and better fit our building into or onto the residential block. There were also questions about privacy that were raised, and I just want the board to at least consider the alternative. If the 5-foot setback results in a taller building, there's no change in the visibility between the south side of our building and the north side of the neighboring building to the south. It's just a matter of the 5 feet. There still is a height allowance in the B15 district. We've said it repetitively. I apologize. The alternative is a 6 or 7-story building to accomplish the floor area and unit count required to make this project financially feasible. And with respect to parking, I think the Alderman explained it quite well. This is a transit-oriented development site. It is directly adjacent to what's going to be a state-of-the-art CTA station. For those reasons, we think our program meets the intent of the transit-oriented development ordinance, and we ask that the board approve the special uses and variations required for this particular project.
Thanks, Counselor. And Alderman, I'm going to go to you. I want to give the opportunity to the board to ask questions at this point in time. Okay, Alderman Osterman, go right ahead.
Thank you again. And I appreciate the comments of everybody. I think what I would say is that this went through an extensive community process with a lot of feedback from a lot of residents. And I think the design and the variations that are requested before you today really represent a balanced building that would be a significant benefit to the community. I think the point I want to lift up that Mr. Fatikas made is that under the current zoning, a much bigger, denser, taller building could be built. And I think that the community had really requested that 5-story limit. A larger building is going to have impacts on the tree and the residents to the next door. So I think our hope is that every effort would be made to preserve the tree, but I think the design you have before us really represents, I think, a lot of feedback, which the community thinks would be beneficial to all the neighbors there, given the new station that's coming, given the residential character on Winthrop, but also the need for commercial. So again, I would reiterate my support for this and ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, final opportunity to the board to ask any questions. I know we've got a lot of information here, but if there's any clarifications.
Yep, this is Jolene Saul for the applicant. So I appreciate the community input that they do not want a taller building. But for that south setback, can you talk about the hardship? So that, you know, the community's desire, while very important, isn't a hardship to the property. So can you chat about that a little bit more?
Well, I think from its face, the hardship, the practical or technical hardship in this case is that a B1-5 zoning lot doesn't have a front or side setback requirement. The front, or in this case, the south side setback requirement is triggered by the abutting residential district. So from a practical standpoint, or even a technical zoning ordinance standpoint, therein lies the issue. We don't normally, a B1-5 zoning lot doesn't have to comply with any side setback requirement. It's only imposed in this case because of that adjoining residential district.
But it sounds like you're arguing the zoning itself is a hardship, and that seems like a circular argument.
No, I think it's certainly part of the argument, though, because on its own, a district like this wouldn't have a side setback requirement, and other B1-5
Sorry
properties.
to interrupt you, but it's not on its own, right? So
I think we're maybe not following on the same conclusion, but we're maybe arguing the same point. Another B1-5 zoning district that's adjacent to B1-5 zoning wouldn't have a side setback or a front setback requirement. So it's imposed by the neighboring property, which we have absolutely no control over, the zoning district of these surrounding or abutting properties. Again, moreover, the hardship is we can't fit the building a 5-story volume on the subject property without the setback reductions. If we aren't able to get the setback reductions, it forces a taller building design to permit, again, otherwise allowed height and density on the property. So this really is, again, part of the community negotiation. And I do think that the pattern of development and the neighboring property characteristics being predominantly 3 and 4 stories in height is something that the zoning board should consider, that our project is more compatible at 5 stories compared to a taller building.
And then just, you have addressed this, but just for clarity, the 5-story, this building shape at 5 stories is necessary due to financial feasibility. Is that one of your
Right?
arguments?
It's to be able to get the unit count and floor area to support the development. And it also takes into consideration the commitment to provide 5 low-income housing units as part of the program, even though technically it's not a requirement of code. It's something that we did as a consideration for the neighbors as well as the aldermen. So in order to make the project work from a financial standpoint and meet all of these commitments, this is the design that we know we can make it. We can make those commitments happen.
For the affordable units, it sounded like you were getting some subsidy through the trust fund. Is that correct?
We believe so. The final commitment from Low Income Housing Trust Fund won't come until the building's delivered and the units are inspected. So we're a little bit early in that process, but through Alderman Osterman's office, we've worked with the Department of Housing as well as the Low Income Housing Trust Fund to garner support for this project. And again, I can't speak for the Low Income Housing Trust Fund. What I can report is there is interest, and they were excited to have the opportunity to incorporate 5 units for low income housing residents.
And if that subsidy does not come through, those units will not be affordable?
No, what we'll do is we'll work with Alderman Osterman to find an alternative solution. Again, unlike other projects that I'm sure the board's familiar with the type 1 zoning change where there's an affordable covenant, we've made our commitment to the alderman and the community to move forward with some level of affordability.
I appreciate that. What I heard was that you were making an argument on financial feasibility in part due to the 5 affordable units. So that's why I'm asking this question. I realize.
Right, and I just want to make sure.
Not required. Yep. And then do you, I'll try to make this my last question. Do you know or have a sense of the difference of the trust fund rents versus the market rents?
So we were given ranges more or less. And we believe that there's somewhere between 40 and 50% of the market rate. So again, it's to be determined at the time by the Low Income Housing Trust Fund upon delivery of the units. So again, it's more of a projection. All of our figures have to be projections.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Esposito. Along the same lines, can you describe how the affordable units will be distributed within the building physically?
I'm actually, it's something that I overlooked and I apologize for that. We had initially proposed, if I can just give a little bit of background, we had initially proposed an all retail first floor. The neighbors and the alderman and the applicant for that matter had concerns with Winthrop being retail. So we redesigned with residential units that triggered the special use requirement. And initially we had proposed putting the affordable units in that section of the building. However, the neighbors had asked that we distribute them throughout the building and give a unit range and size, more of a representative mix, and we've made that commitment. So we are no longer putting the affordable units just on the first floor. The 5 units will be located within the building on floors 2 through 5.
Thank you.
Okay, additional questions from the board? Okay, I do see a hand from Megan Schmidt. I want to note to the objectors that we are past that part in the process. We'll entertain a specific question related to something new that was just set. So if you go right ahead, Megan.
Yeah, it is a question, but this is my first zoning hearing ever, so bear with me. But if the building is obviously going to be residential, does it not then need to follow residential zoning laws? As far as we think about like I'm just looking at this image, right? The residential setbacks and requirements for a residential building, is that?
Yeah, I wonder if someone from Department of Planning and Development is on to speak to this and how it relates to the setbacks being asked for. My belief is it's just part of the variation that's being requested. It's part of why they're requesting the variations from what the residential setbacks are. But let's see, is Steve Valenziano or Nancy Radzovich on?
I appreciate it. Thank you, Timmy.
Yep, sure. See if we can track one of them down. Is Nancy Radzovich on?
She is on, Chairman, but she's not responding, so might be away from.
Yeah, and so I know the result. The result in this, Megan, is because of the setbacks that they're asking for, bring them to where they need to be. That kind of is a variation to what the residential setbacks typically would be. So the fact that they're asking for these significant setbacks, if we were to approve those, that is a variation from the residential requirements. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I appreciate the clarification.
Okay. Okay, we've got a lot of information on this. And so I believe we've heard closing. Counselor, do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're going to take this under consideration, and thanks for everyone for their time. Thanks to the alderman for coming in. Thanks for the objectors to taking time out of what is a business work day as well. And we will take this under consideration and circle back at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, we're going to go to a special use, calendar number 470-21-F. At 1142 West Madison Avenue. Make sure we have counselor on. It should be Graham Grady, I believe. Or Sylvia Mishas. Micus. I see the applicant. So if you are an objector on this one, again, just stating this for every matter, please raise your hand and we'll get you promoted. While counselor gets situated, I'm going to go ahead and read the department's recommendation. For calendar number 470-21-S, the Department of Planning and Development recommends approval to establish a religious assembly use within suites 303, 304, and 307 on the third floor of an existing 5-story building, provided that the special use is issued solely to the applicant, Greenhouse Movement of Missional Churches, and that the development is consistent with the design and layout of the plans and drawings dated August 18th, 2021, prepared by Liz Patterson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Afternoon,
can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Yeah, go right ahead. The applicant's on as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is Sylvia Micus, and I'm an attorney with the law firm of Taft, Continuance and Hollister, located at 111 East Walker Drive in Chicago, Illinois. Along with my co-counsel Graham Grady, we represent the applicant, Greenhouse Movement Missional Churches, lessee of suites 303, 304, and 307, located at 1142 West Madison Street in Chicago, Illinois. The subject property is located within a DX3 district and is improved with the existing 5-story building portion of an existing partial 1, 4, and 5-story interconnected building located at 1140 through 50 West Madison in Chicago. The applicant is seeking a special use in order to establish religious assembly use within the leased premises. The applicant has a few other Chicago area locations and is actually relocating its prior location in Fulton Market to the subject property. The applicant will conduct Sunday services from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. to its 60-person congregation. Applicants' administrative offices will be open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Here with us today are Nate Beasley, applicant's senior pastor, Liz Patterson, applicant's independent design consultant, and applicant's MAI appraiser, Kathleen Dart of KMD Valuation Group. Pastor Beasley, please state your name, address, and business or profession for the record.
My name is Nate Beasley, and I live at 1244 West Westgate Terrace in Chicago, Illinois, 60607. I'm the senior pastor.
Thank you, Pastor. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
And Pastor Beasley, as you are aware, Taft submitted findings of fact in your affidavit to the board, which were submitted into evidence. If you were asked to continue to testify, would your testimony be consistent with those findings of fact and affidavit?
Yes.
Thank you, Pastor Beasley. Ms. Patterson, please state your name, address, and business or profession for the record.
My name is Liz Patterson. I am a design consultant. And sorry, was there one more question?
Just your address, please.
Address, 1417 West Huron Street, apartment 2W in Chicago, Illinois.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Cool.
Ms. Patterson, as you are aware, Taft submitted findings of fact, floor plan, and your signed affidavit to the board, which were submitted into evidence. If asked to continue to testify, would your testimony be consistent with those findings of fact, floor plan, and affidavit?
It would be.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. Ms. Dart, please state your name, address, and business or profession for the record. Not sure. Kathy?
Kathy,
I'm
I think
sorry,
we're
can you hear
good
me
now.
now?
You're unmuted. Yes, go right ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Thanks, Kathy. Kathy, if you could just please state your name, address, and business or profession for the record.
Yes, this is Kathleen Dart, KMD Valuation Group, 47 West Polk Street, Chicago, Illinois. I'm an Illinois State General Certified Appraiser and an MAI.
Thank you, Kathleen. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes, sir, I do.
Great. And we recognize your expertise based off of many past appearances with the board.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Dart, you were retained by the applicant to conduct an impact study regarding applicant's proposed religious assembly use at the subject property, correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Dart, have you prepared a report detailing your analysis, findings, and conclusions? And is that report in the material submitted to the board and admitted into evidence?
Yes, it is.
And Ms. Dart, is it your opinion that the proposed special use will comply with all applicable standards of the Chicago zoning ordinance?
Yes.
And is it your opinion that the proposed special use is in the interest of the public convenience and will not have a significant adverse impact on the general welfare of the neighborhood or community?
Yes, it is.
And is it your opinion that the proposed special use is compatible with the character of the surrounding area in terms of site planning, building design, and project design?
Yes, it is.
And is it your opinion that the proposed special use is compatible with the character of the surrounding areas in terms of operating characteristics?
Yes, I do.
And is it your opinion that the proposed special use is designed to promote pedestrian safety and comfort?
Yes.
And if you were to continue to testify, would your testimony be consistent with the findings and conclusions contained in your report?
Yes, it would.
Thank you, Ms. Dart. Mr. Chairman of the board, we are available for any questions, and that concludes our case in chief.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So I have a question just because of the placement of the church, and I know there's already there's a bar next door. So the question that arises is, in the future, do you, if someone applies for a liquor license, will you be opposing those for neighbors?
Actually, Chairman, that has been discussed with Pastor Beasley. He is well aware of, obviously Mad Social is currently a tenant, and I will turn it over to him, but my understanding is that he would not oppose it, but I will turn that over to Pastor Beasley so he can make that statement on his own behalf as well.
Thank you.
We would not oppose any liquor licenses.
Okay. Easy answer. Okay. Okay, thank you. Other questions from the board? Okay, we've got what we need here, so we'll take it under consideration. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful holiday. Take care.
You too. You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, let's get through a couple more before we allow the board to eat something. So calendar number 471-21-Z at 2438 Northwestern Avenue.
Chairman, just to make it ready for you, is the next case going to be 472?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I just want to announce that if Attorney Tom Moore is listening, his client Mark Friedlander is not in the meeting. So he wants to.
Oh, thanks for that, Kamal. That's appreciated. So yeah, as a note, for the case after this one for 472, Tom, track down your applicant, please. With that, let's go to 471-21-Z. I see a few hands being raised. So we will get them promoted as applicable. If you're for 472, you don't have to raise your hand. We'll come to you when that's up. And Paul, go right ahead. Is Paul Kopak on?
Yes, Chairman, he just has to unmute. Attorney Moore is raising his hand. If you have your client here, Attorney Moore, then that's fine.
Yep. Yeah, Tom, we were just giving you a warning. We don't have to talk to you yet. So we'll come back to you when 472 is up. So with that, Paul, I think we just got to get you unmuted.
Can you guys hear me? This is Tim Palmaville. I'm the applicant.
We can hear you, Tim.
Okay, great.
Are we unmuted now?
Yep. Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Paul Kopak with offices at 6767 North Milwaukee Avenue. Here today representing Ambrosia Homes of Illinois LLC 39 for their application for variation to reduce the rear yard setback from the required 30 feet to 1.52 feet for proposed rear open porch with roof access to a proposed roof deck on the existing as-built 3-car garage, which services the existing 3-dwelling unit building. As a way of background, this property is currently zoned B2-3 and measures 25 feet wide by 108.97 feet in depth. The applicant sought a type 1 zoning map amendment, which allowed the present underlying zoning district, and it appeared in the October 11, 2017 journal. That amended the property from the prior C12 neighborhood commercial district to the present B2-3 neighborhood mixed use district. The applicant further appeared in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals on November 15th, 2019, and received a variation to reduce the rear yard setback from 30 feet to 2 feet. The resolution was passed on December 23rd, 2019. The issue here is that pursuant to section 1713-1106, this project was supposed to be completed within 12 months of the date of the approval of the variation. Unfortunately, due to COVID, my client was not able to complete it, and therefore we're in front of this committee. At this point, I would like to introduce Mr. Tim Palmaville. Tim is the manager of the applicant. Tim?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Could you please state your name and address?
I'm Tim Palmaville. My home address is 6730 North Ionia in Chicago, 60646.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you.
Tim, could you explain to the board what the hardship was in getting this project completed within the 12-month period?
Sure. So we just, as a way of background on this, like Paul said, we got a T1 zoning change on this. And when we did that, we had 2 different community meetings, and the plans for this building are essentially the same as they've always been. But because it's a substandard lot, because it's only 108 feet long, we have to use the same stairway to get to the roof deck that you would use to get to the rear units of the 2nd floor unit and the 3rd floor unit. Because of that, you need a variance. You're not allowed to have that in your rear yard setback, where you have a shared staircase for both purposes. In 2019, we got that variance to be able to use to basically reduce the stairway, or I'm sorry, reduce the rear yard setback, so that this stairway wasn't in the rear yard setback, and then we would continue on. We did that while under construction with the building. So we started construction on the building, then we received that variance. We continued constructing the building, but in, I guess it would have been around March of 2019, or I'm sorry, March of 2020, while we were under construction, that's when COVID hit. When that happened, we weren't really sure if this project would continue. We were about half built at that point. But I'm sure you can all realize that this was a big unknown at first for, I'd say, the first couple weeks, between not knowing if the city would allow us to continue and then just not having people show up for work. The pace of construction really slowed down here. We had people that just wouldn't come. I think because people were scared, just there were so many unknowns. But then even when people did come back, they were coming back with smaller crews or crews that wouldn't work when other crews were there with them. They wanted the whole job site to themselves, for instance. And that's very untypical of our construction pattern. So long story short, this project took a lot longer to build than our normal projects do. And I'm happy to say now, I think people, just between the vaccinations and, social distancing, our construction speed has improved a lot. But on this one, it was very slow. During that period, we continued to work on this, but getting towards the end of it, we were not able to complete this during the 12 months from getting that variance. So we were told that we had to come back and get another variance to be able to finish our project. And that's why we're here.
Tim, you also filed an economic impact. Could you describe that to the board?
So this goes back to why this variance was asked for to begin with. If you're familiar with just the condo market in let's say the Bucktown area, having outside access or just having like a roof deck that you can have as your property is very valuable on these types of units. And in actuality, it makes the whole project viable. This is a full masonry building. It's an expensive building to build, and this is what the community asked us to do through our community meetings. But having rooftop access, let's say, to that deck is extremely, or to the roof of the garage is extremely valuable. If we don't have the variance, we're not allowed to use that stairwell in the back to actually access the top of the garage. It has to be built in a way that you're not able to get on the garage. By doing it that way and not having a garage rooftop deck, we estimate a decrease in value of the project that would be over $100,000. It'd be probably $150,000. It's that big of a change in value. So this is extremely important to us. It was always designed to have rooftop access on the garage. This is what we showed to the community. This is what we showed to the alderman at that time. It's a different alderman now, because this project goes back to, I think, 2018 was when we were meeting with those community groups. So it's a very old project. But we're at the same place we were before, where we need this variance to basically build what was already approved in the T1 plan. And that's what we want to do. We want to finish the project.
And Tim, this is consistent with the type 1 that was approved in that 2018 zoning. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So
I have no further questions of Mr. Promoville.
Okay, great. So any questions from the board at this point?
Hi, yes, this is Jolene Saul. I'm looking at your economic, the reasonable turn analysis, and you're showing a 14% return without the variations versus 27%. Can you address why the scenario without variations isn't feasible for you, if that's what you're asserting?
Yeah, I mean, again, and let me pull up what I submitted to the city too, just so I can look at it at the same time. Essentially, if you look at, I would actually, the percentages aren't as important to me always as just gross profit. And if you can see on there, because I'm assuming you guys are looking at the chart that we proposed.
Yep.
The difference there, I mean, is showing $200,000 in difference. The biggest change is two things. One is the value of the condo itself, and it really affects the second floor unit because the second floor unit is the one that gets the outdoor space. And then also just the additional cost to configure stairs to work without this kind of access to the garage. So, I mean, I would say the big things to us are this profit was built into the project. This is why we could get a construction loan to begin with. This is why, we take risks like we do to even build a project like this. These were built in. It's also, it's what we showed on the T1 plan when we did the zoning change. If we couldn't have gotten that plan approved, we wouldn't have done this project. I mean, we would have had to have some other kind of design. We designed it this way essentially to create the best, living situation for all 3 units. In this case, it's a really special building because the first floor unit gets a little backyard, the second floor unit gets the roof of that garage, and the third floor unit actually gets the rooftop of the building. Each unit gets a really unique outdoor space, and that really drives the value of the project. Without that, we wouldn't have changed the zoning. We wouldn't have tried to build this. So really all we're trying to do is just be consistent with the T1 zoning plan, which was already approved, but this is a second step.
I appreciate this. I know this situation is a little unique because it was approved, but I'm part of our job is to analyze or assess the hardship here. So that's really what I'm trying to.
The biggest hardship though for us is that the building is built on a lot that's only 108 feet long. When you have that kind of lot where it's substandard, you have to get super creative on the stairs. If this was 125 feet long, we wouldn't need any of this, right? Because the garage would be further back towards the alley and you could actually do 2 different stairways. Here you can't. It's got to be the same stairs that go to the top of that garage has to be the stairway then that goes to the other units. There's really no other way to make it fit.
And also, Tim, had we been able to complete this project within the 12-month period, we would have no reason to be in front of this board.
That's true. So, if you ask, well, how did we miss it? We missed it by 2 months. So, I mean.
No, I get that. Sorry to interrupt you. I appreciate, that's why I said I know it's unique because it was approved and it's a time lapse, but we still have to look at the hardship. But there's the short lot, I think addresses that. So thank you.
Yeah, but I just want to jump in. This is Sam Toya. You said it's 108 feet lot, but you knew that when you bought it. And answer this question. Is it the only lot on the street that's 108 feet? Or is next door going south, going north? Are they 108 feet or are they 125 feet? You're the only lot that's 108. Could you clarify that for me?
I'd like to answer that, sure. This lot was always 108 feet. The other neighbors have similar challenges, but again, we changed the zoning. This is the plan that we use for zoning. We're married to this plan. We're in a situation where.
Well, I mean, you put 108 out there. You knew it was 108 when you bought it. That's all I'm saying. You're saying that's your hardship. So
I also have a hardship that I have to live within the plan that I've approved in a T1. What can I do? So, I mean, one step of the city is already finished. They've approved me building this building on a lot that's 108 feet long. What else can I do here? And this is the stairway that we showed them to do it.
Mr. Commissioner Toya, this is Paul Kolpak. Again, Kim did come in front of the ZBA in November of 2019 with the request for a variation from 30 feet to 2 feet, which was approved he appeared in November of 2019, and the approval was submitted on December 23rd of 2019. So again, it's not so much that issue, I believe, has been vetted by the Zoning Board of Appeals at that time. The issue is really.
Yeah, but that's then, this is now. So let's just stick to now.
I understand, but I think the issue, Commissioner Toya, is really the 12 months. Had COVID not occurred, we wouldn't be back here today. Had Tim been able to finish this, we would not be here today within that 12-month period.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair to say. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have no further questions for Mr. Pomathel.
Yeah, you've got another witness, Counselor.
Yes, we do.
Right. So if you could go ahead and just get them on.
I would like to call Mr. Dennis Kulak. Dennis?
I'm here.
Good afternoon, Dennis. Could you please state your name and your occupation?
Dennis Kulak, registered architect in Illinois. Address is 2357 North Damon Avenue, Chicago, 60647.
And Dennis, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you.
Dennis, you're the project architect for this development, is that correct?
No, I was the
The
design
design, I'm
architect
sorry, the design architect for
and
this.
zoning architect.
And zoning architect. And this plan that we are here today is consistent with that testimony that you had back in 2019 and 2018, is that correct?
That is correct.
And again, you're familiar with the issue that we had COVID, we could not complete that within the 12-month period, is that correct?
That is correct.
You have submitted an affidavit regarding the standards for the variation. And if you were called to testify to those standards, you testify in substantial compliance, is that correct?
That is correct.
And in there, you have indicated that you do not believe it is the physical surroundings of the specific property would result in a hardship upon the property owner from mere inconvenience, is that correct?
That's correct.
The purpose of the variation is not exclusively upon a desire to make more money, is that correct?
That is correct.
The alleged practical difficulty or particular hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property, is that correct?
That's correct.
The granting of the variation will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the neighborhood in which the property is located, is that correct?
That is correct.
The proposed variation will not impair the adequate supply of light and air to the adjacent property or substantially increase the congestion in the public streets, is that correct?
That is correct.
I have no further questions.
Thank you, Counselor, and thanks, Dennis. So really quick, there's a Peggy pointer where with their hand raised. So I want to confirm whether Peggy pointer is on for this matter. So Peggy, let's get you unmuted and see whether you're on this matter. If you could accept the promotion request, that would be helpful.
Hello?
Hi, Peggy. Are you on for this matter?
No, I'm waiting for the matter concerning the service station at 127th and Halsted.
Okay, great. I saw your hand was raised. So it was the
Oh,
promotion
no.
for this
It
matter.
was-
No
okay.
worries. We'll see you a bit later today.
Okay, I'll log off until then. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so any questions from the board for this matter 471-21-Z? All right, we'll take it under consideration.
Thank you for your time and efforts. Be well, everyone.
You as well.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, everybody, let's do one more before going to a break. So calendar number 472-21-S. This is with Counselor Moore. Again, raise your hand if you need to be promoted, whether it's because you're the applicant who hasn't been promoted yet, or if you're objecting. And I believe we do have the applicant on now.
Yes, we're on.
Okay, I'll go ahead and quick read the department's recommendation, then we'll get going. The Department of Planning and Development recommends approval to establish a tavern, provided that the special use is issued solely to the applicant, J&D Enterprises of Illinois, Inc. And the development is consistent with the design and layout of the plans and drawings dated October 1, 2021, prepared by Base Lab PC. All right, Counselor, go right ahead.
Thank you very much. If Jeanette is able to pull up the exhibit we filed for the hearing, it kind of tells the whole story. Mr. Chairman, the two partners are Mark Friedlander, and they're on the same screen, I believe, with Dan Clute. So if you would swear them, please, this should be pretty short and direct.
Okay, great. Mark Friedlander, will you state your name and address?
Mark Freelander, 4824 North Carlove Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60630.
And do you swear or affirm to state the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes.
Thank you. The other is Daniel Clute. Will you state your name and address?
Daniel Clute, 1017 West Byron Street, Chicago, 60613.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes.
Okay, and then we've got Joe Ryan for his first of the day. Joe, will you state your name and address?
Joseph M. Ryan, MAI, President, LaSalle Appraisal Group, with offices at 9455 South Hoyne Avenue in Chicago.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you, and your expertise is acknowledged.
Thank you, Chairman.
May I proceed then?
Yes, you may, Counselor. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mark Friedlander, will you tell the board who you are?
I'm the president, owner of J&D Enterprises of Illinois, which our bar is Shakers on Clark.
And the gentleman next to you is your partner in that LLC or corporation, is that right?
Correct.
And you gentlemen have had that establishment for the last 6 or 7 years, is that right?
7 years, yeah.
But the license and the actual physical tavern has been there since 1986.
Correct.
And it's a somewhat of it's established in the neighborhood and has a regular clientele. Is that fair?
That's very fair, yes.
And but during COVID, whatever the property to your south or the tenant to your south moved out, and the landlord had a chance to fill that space with a medical supply store and a pharmacy. And both the landlord and the alderman thought that'd be a good idea. Is that right?
Correct.
So you were asked to move one door north, just around the residential entrance, just the other side of it. Is that right?
Correct.
And your business will otherwise stay the same as it's been the whole time you've been there, and for the 35 years it's been there. Is that right?
Correct.
And you've talked to your neighbors in the building, and the alderman put it on his website, and you're not aware of any objections whatsoever. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you and I worked out an affidavit where we addressed each of the criteria necessary for this board to grant a special use. And if you were to continue to testify, you testify consistently with it. Is that right?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, that's what I have of this witness, and then we have Mr. Ryan.
Great. Okay, let's go to Mr. Ryan, and then we'll circle back with questions.
Joe Ryan, at my request, you looked into whether or not this would have a negative effect on the surrounding property values and whether it could meet all the other criteria necessary for the to meet the criteria necessary to grant a special use at this location. Is that right?
That's correct.
And will you tell the board what were your findings and what your report says?
Well, based on the fact that they're located one storefront to the north and moving, it would have no impact whatsoever on property values or any of the other criteria cited in the my report.
And if you were to continue to testify, you testify consistently with your report. Is that right?
Yes, I would.
That is our case in chief, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay. We'll take this under consideration. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for the heads up on the we were on the wrong email.
Oh, no worries. We're trying to make sure everything is clear on Zoom because we just aren't sure how long this will be. Let's take a recess around 35 minutes, going to 1:30 p.m. Or 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Commissioner Toya seconds. Commissioner Saul.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes. See everyone at 1:30.
And Attorney Moore, just want to mention that your upcoming cases, I don't see Michael Moresso and Prentice Earl.
Michael Moretzo, and who's the other one?
Prentice Earl for case number 476. So you may want to make sure that.
Yeah, 476 was continued.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
And-
Okay, so
and
Michael Moresso.
Mike Moretz is on it, and I'll make sure that you get his email that I just talked to him. He was watching it, so I'll make sure
Okay.
you get his email.
No, I don't need his email. I just wanted to let you know that if he can be on Zoom. If he is, then it's good.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.